Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the December Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Thank you for joining us today. John is not here, so I'll be acting as chair today. I'm Sarah Jordan. As usual, we have a full agenda, and it's my goal to get everyone out of here early, so please be thorough but be mindful of time. As a reminder, please limit individual conversations during the meeting. This ensures commission members and applicants can hear one another. Please remain quiet until you are called upon. When you speak at the podium, please state your name and your address for the record. Before the commission votes on each item, I will ask if any members of the public wish to speak. Speakers are given 3 minutes to relay information to commission members. The agenda and documents for today's meeting are located on the PrimeGov website. If you're following along, select Agenda on the right side of the Historic Preservation Commission meeting to see the items being discussed. Written comments received more than 24 hours before today's meeting are posted online and were shared with commission members. At this point, new materials may not be shared with the commission, so if you brought any materials with you, please keep them at your seat. Keith, would you please call roll?
Jordan.
Present.
Gaines. Present. McBride.
Present.
Whitley.
Present.
Wood.
Present.
Corn.
Okay. Procedures for today's meeting are noted in the agenda. For the sake of time, we ask anyone who is unfamiliar with the process to please refer to the procedures section. There are 2 items we like to note specifically regarding the meeting process, and these involve certificates of appropriateness and appeals. Regarding certificates of appropriateness, after an application is approved and the 10-day protest period has expired, the Historic Preservation Officer will mail the CA to the applicant. City construction permits cannot be issued until the CA has been issued. Please contact HP staff for final design review inspection or to withdraw items that will not be completed. Regarding an appeal to the Board of Adjustments, any person aggrieved by a decision granting or denying a CA may appeal to the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustments. All appeals shall be made within 10 days of the commission decision by filing written notice of appeal with the clerk of the Board of Adjustments. Katie, any news from the Office of the Historic Preservation Officer? Is there anything we need to move today?
Nothing to report and no items that need to be moved.
Okay, have the commissioners had a chance to review the minutes from the November 5th meeting? And if so, do we have questions or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Please vote in PrimeGov. Okay, moving on. Katie, anything from code enforcement?
Nothing specific to report from code enforcement. As always, if you see any items in that code enforcement report that's attached to your agenda each month and have questions, you can reach out to HP staff or contact the Action Center for more information.
Okay, any continuance announcements or requests?
We have no continuance requests on the agenda today, and we've received no new requests since the previous meeting.
Okay, public hearings, dilapidated structures?
No dilapidated structures. We do have 1 National Register nomination.
All right, consent docket.
Oh,
sorry.
We got to do
You're gonna go through that one first?
Yep,
Sorry,
yep,
I'm
sorry.
new at this, guys.
No, you're good. This is NRHP 25-00005 at this is the Downtown Oklahoma City Historic District. This is a National Register nomination prepared by the Oklahoma State Historic Preservation Office to create a new National Register district in downtown Oklahoma City. The district is nominated as eligible under Criterion A, History, recognizing properties associated with events that have made significant contributions to the broad patterns of our history in the specific areas of commerce and law. Michael Mays is here from the State Historic Preservation Office, and I'll let him tell you a little more about the district.
Thank you, Katie. All right, the Downtown Oklahoma City Historic District is being nominated to the National Register under the criteria of commerce and law with a period of significance of 1907 to 1975, reflecting the growth of downtown at the beginning of statehood as the central hub for commerce to the 50-year period of significance window that is designated by the National Park Service. SHPO, my office, conducted a survey of the downtown area in the summer of 2025. We concluded that the designated boundary of Northwest 4th Street, North Hudson, Park Avenue, North Robinson, West Sheridan, and North E.K. Gaylord Boulevard contained a total of 44 contributing resources out of 77. This includes 37 buildings, 1 site, 4 structures, and 2 objects. The 16-block area containing the highest concentration of buildings in downtown Oklahoma City includes 13 previously listed National Register buildings and forms the heart of the commercial center for Oklahoma County. The high-rise commercial buildings reflect a continuum of development that began in the early 1900s when the booming oil industry and central government enabled business leaders to construct high-style office buildings as testaments to their wealth and leadership. Construction dipped slightly during the Great Depression, and construction slowed during World War II as it did nationwide. After the war, both the oil industry and development quickly rebounded, leading to a second wave of downtown commercial buildings that were erected between 1947 and 1978. The resources from this are scattered throughout the district and reflect evolving tastes and trends in commercial designs. The Downtown Oklahoma City Historic District is eligible for listing in the National Register under Criterion A for its significance in commerce and law, with the period of 1907 signifying the start of construction and the first commercial building to 1975, signaling the last parking garage to be completed. Sorry about my voice.
Any questions? To elaborate on this process, as you all have seen before, anytime a National Register nomination is prepared for a property or district in Oklahoma City, it comes to this commission for a recommendation and then on to City Council for their action. And then we'll go back to SHPO's Historic Preservation Review Committee for their vote, and then on to the National Park Service for final inclusion in the National Register. This does not change any zoning designation for properties in downtown. It's already under a design review district, so they're already going through a design review process. This doesn't add anything to that. The primary impact that this will have on property owners is that they would be eligible for historic tax credits if they renovate their building.
So how do you determine exactly which ones are in and out? Like if you have one that's just across the street from your boundary line, how did
we determine the boundary line?
Yeah.
Well, we looked at a few things, one of them being what we already have as far as historic districts. So for example, we have Automobile Alley right to the north. So we look at that. And then another thing we look at is what criteria this would fall under. So we have Commerce, which is a lot of the buildings that developed with that area, and then we also included law because of the federal buildings and things like that that are in it. We also look at if we expand it out, is that going to affect the number of contributing or non-contributing? You have to have over 50% of your buildings contributing to make a historic district. So that was another thing we looked at on these boundaries. If we were to expand northwest a little ways, those buildings, would they add to the contributing number or would they add to a non-contributing? So that's kind of various aspects that we look at.
Okay, commissioners, any further questions for the applicant? And if not, maybe a recommendation on this one?
I will make a motion to recommend approval of NRHP-25-00005
And to adopt the resolution.
and to adopt the resolution.
Okay, great. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Awesome. If you guys would please be so kind as to vote in PrimeGov.
Oh, we did not ask if there was anyone from the public.
Oh, I apologize. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this matter? Okay, now carry on and vote. Okay, that motion carries, so congratulations and thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, moving on to the consent docket. If the commissioners have had a chance to review the consent docket, I would love to entertain a motion, unless there's something you guys would like to see pulled and discussed.
I move approval of the consent docket.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Okay, that motion carries. So if you were on the consent docket, congratulations, your project is approved, and you have the option to stick around and hang out with us or go ahead and leave. Okay, moving right along to items for individual consideration, starting with HPCA 2500068.
Christopher Gilchrist. Oh, sorry.
Yes. Let me just introduce it real quick. This is at 531 Northwest 36 Terrace, Crown Heights, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application by Gary Randolph, Randolph Design and Build, for Chris Gilchrist for certificate of appropriateness to 1 construct addition, including greenhouse, covered patio, and garage. Elective 2, reconstruct screen porch. Elective 3, reconstruct front porch. Elective 4, replace front door. Elective 5, replace garage door. 6, replace driveway. 7, replace windows. And 8, replace mechanical equipment, all elective. The commission saw this at the October meeting and continued it. There was discussion regarding design elements and the windows and the size and massing, et cetera, of the addition. It is back before you with no significant change to the proposed addition. The applicant has submitted additional information and justification for the size of the addition as proposed. We do have new information for you on the condition of the windows and have now recommended approval of all items except for that item 1, construct addition. Staff has still recommended continuance on the addition, largely due to just the size. And the applicant is here.
Okay, would you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Christopher Gilchrist, 531 Northwest 36 Terrace, Oklahoma
Okay.
City, Oklahoma.
Thank you. I think we largely know about your project, so do you just want to, commissioners, what questions do we have this month? I'll start with a really easy one.
Sure.
Would you be open to swapping your garage door material to wood?
Absolutely.
Okay. That was the easiest question you'll get all day. Okay.
Are we done? Thank you.
So the note, I have a couple of notes here. When we saw this in October, and you were not here in November, correct?
I was not.
I was not either, so I'm not behind. So when we saw this in October, we asked that it be resubmitted clarifying square footages. You know, we need, because this will be a unique circumstance, should it be approved, we need to either uniquely approve a very large garage or a very large addition. We don't see a lot of tandem garages either, so my preference would be that everything kind of from the rear wall of the garage and existing home back that's being added on be presented in totality as the additional square footage so that we can review exactly what we are agreeing to, not like separating out greenhouse or the tandem garage. So just kind of curious why it wasn't brought back that way, if there was a motivation.
So when I was reviewing the recording, there was a conversation around livable square footage and total footprint. And I came back with the livable square footage number. So I also provided a response, one, thanking you all for taking the time to discuss as long as you did in October. But ultimately, it was 7% above the 50% of the current livable square footage and a 4% increase of the new square footage in terms of overage from the 50% cap on livable square footage.
Okay, and I apologize if I,
Yeah, his plans have a like new area totals that says total living area versus, you know,
so
what's
what is
under
the
the
new
roof.
total living area?
That says
864?
2,218.
864 is the additional square footage.
So 864 includes the greenhouse.
No.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that's just what I'm trying to figure out, because I think that's what we were after, or at least that's what I was after. That is living space, right?
It's not heated or air conditioned.
But you're not using it for like mechanical equipment, you're not using it for a car?
No, it's going to be used like a screened-in porch, just with windows instead.
So I'm sharing my screen. This has the calculations for the square footage of the different components of the structure. So the first and second floor living area below are, that's what the totals will be. And so those are the two areas where the addition of 850 or so square feet is coming from the first floor living area and the second floor living area. It is not including the greenhouse and the two-car garage. And then we wouldn't typically include the historic screen porch or covered patio or front porch, because those are not, under no circumstances would those be assessed as being enclosed space.
Does, per our, I mean, my interpretation of the guidelines would be that the greenhouse is viewed as livable space because it is, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not having open screens or anything. I mean, it's windows and it's a full exterior door, right?
Yes.
So I guess I'm just confused about why it wouldn't be living space. I mean, I understand what you're saying, that it doesn't have its own air vent, but neither does my closet, so it's living space. So do the guidelines kind of dictate how that should be viewed?
They don't go into that level of detail. They talk about the amount of square footage you can add, and we've always looked at that as being enclosed habitable space.
Yeah.
Versus a porch or a patio. That a porch or a patio doesn't count. Anything that's enclosed, that's habitable, that's finished, does count. We've talked with the applicant about the intent with the greenhouse is not for it to be conditioned space, is not for it to be habitable space. Same goes for the addition to the garage. The concern in evaluating this from staff's perspective was that the way they are built from the exterior, at any time, an interior remodel could be done and make those into livable space. And that overall, our concern is really less about how a space is used. It's more about the massing and the form and the footprint and the overall size of the structure. And these are expanding the overall size and form and footprint of the structure. Now, you all have, and you all can, and you have in the past approved additions that were beyond that 750 limit with unique circumstances. When those had to do with that the massing was appropriate, that the design was compact and was compatible with the structure, things like that. But from staff's perspective, when we're looking at the impact on the historic structure, the proportion of what's being added to what currently exists, it's difficult to split out those spaces just based on how the interior is intended to function.
Okay, and I know this one is a little bit different because we don't see a lot of historic homes that had an attached garage. That's already, that's just a little bit different than our norm. But I guess I'm just curious, I feel like we were pretty clear in October that we wanted to see it presented as, we want to be able to look back and understand the intent of what we approved and that we view it as living space. So I do think there's a justifiable, unique circumstance to get a larger addition approved right here, but I think we all were hoping to, I think we were all pretty clear that the greenhouse needed to be included as, the proposed living space, and that the garage needed to be proposed as an XYZ square, 675 feet or whatever that becomes with the tandem garage proposal.
So the request is to include the sunroom greenhouse as livable square foot, even though it's not heated or air conditioned, and the doors going to it are outside doors?
Is there no interior access point at all?
There will be one, but it's
Okay.
covered by an outdoor door. It's not like an indoor French door or anything.
But I think that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I guess I was going to ask a commissioner to jump in and correct me if I was wrong, but that's what I thought we spent so much time discussing the last time, was kind of the differences in how to evaluate our definition of livable space as related to this greenhouse.
So I was not.
Clarify the door going from the greenhouse inside. There is a regular door?
Yeah, it'll be, no, it'll be an exterior door, like if you were walking out into the backyard.
Like an exterior grade door, but from interior space to greenhouse.
Yeah. because the door will not remain open unless someone is actually out there, but then the door will be closed. That was the intent of it. Since our house faces south and it's on the east side, it's like a perfect opportunity to take in the morning sun, warm things up, and then during the hot days, it's shaded for the evening and the afternoon. That was our intention behind the sunroom.
It'd be pretty hot if the windows don't open.
Well,
The windows
I didn't
do
say
open.
the closed windows. They would open, I hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, that door to the main house would be a exterior grade door, to Mr. Jordan's point.
Well, I think last time I didn't have as much concern about the greenhouses. I think some others did because of how it was built and presented.
My concern, if I remember correctly, was just due to the overall size. And having lived on 36 Terrace as my first home many years ago, this is already a large home, kind of an outlier for that street in regard to its size and the way that it looks. And my house was 1,000 to 1,100 square feet and kind of across the street. And so now we're looking at putting an over three, I'm not sure on the square foot, considerably, at least twice larger home across the street. And I don't find that there's a unique circumstance here in order to go past the guidelines in regard to the square footage. And I will stand by that in regard to my position. I just believe it's so much additional square footage and creating so much more space that is just not appropriate for this particular area of the neighborhood, and wouldn't want to see the houses that are on the south side, or a kind of snowball effect towards everybody on this street of 1,000 to 1,300 square foot, mostly 2-bedroom, 1-bath homes coming in and trying to create all of them over 2,000 square feet. It just doesn't seem appropriate. Doesn't seem a reason, an exceptional reason, or a reason to go outside the guidelines to me.
It would be difficult on my street for that to be replicated with any other house, being they're all one story. Having the 1 2-story house, that was our thought when we purchased the house, is given it's a 2-story, and part of the guidelines state that from standing on the other side of the street, if you're able to look at the house and there's nothing above the original structure, that the design would be deemed appropriate. And so nothing that we're developing into the back or onto the side would be an elevation higher. In fact, it most likely will be at or below. It will be at or below because we're on a slope down to the creek of Crown Heights Park.
I think it's less about if it's minimally visible or not, and more about, guidelines say that additions can't be more than 50%
Sure.
of the square footage, and you are at over 60%. So I think that's the struggle here with some of the commissioners.
I'm sorry, 60%? Is that including the greenhouse?
I think,
So looking at your numbers here, your total living area from 1364 to 2,218. That's
Of
an
livable
increase.
square footage or footprint? I'm sorry, I can't see it. I'm looking at.
It's the total living area numbers that I'm looking at on the plans.
Okay, because I think I shared.
But
was
it could be,
864.
or 750 square
Yeah,
feet. So
we were
they're,
at
Right.
Yeah,
so they're at
750.
854.
so you would
Yeah.
be 100 feet over if we are removing the greenhouse as livable space and, not treating the tandem garage as livable space. So it just
Is-
gets tricky.
Yeah, which is
There's a lot of
4%.
exceptions.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, it's a lot of exceptions, because I think we're willing to make the allowance for the attached garage and understand the special circumstances there. And I, for one, probably would go for the 100 square feet over, but then also the greenhouse too. Then we start to get into the pushing it waters, which I think is why we were hoping it would come back with a little bit more revisions than it came back with this time.
Specifically on the greenhouse or?
I think just total
addition?
size. We don't mind, I mean, in my opinion, I don't care if within that total size you want to have a greenhouse. But if you're allowed 750 square feet and you're at 104 over without the greenhouse, then also adding on the greenhouse of another 182 square feet means that you're 50% over what you really would have been allotted.
Understood.
And that's at the larger of two, you know, it's 50% or 750 square feet.
Yeah.
And so we were already giving you this, you get the bump to 750. So it's just a lot of bumps.
Right, just a lot of exceptions. And, you know, we try hard when we make unique circumstances or special exceptions to be very clear about why we're making them and what they are. And I think there's still just a little bit too much confusion in what is categorized where in the square footage. And for us to be clear about what, you know, unique circumstances we're approving, I think we would feel more comfortable making those if we all had more clarity about what was what as far as size, you know, where it's categorized, things like that. Personally, anyway.
Was the response that I sent, I believe back in November, was,
The letter.
yes, ma'am.
Ooh, I didn't see that.
Were you just asking if it was included in our packet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just making sure.
What I will say as far as the discussion about how we categorize each space is that we've had applications before that came in with what was clearly an entire second floor that was described as an attic, and the applicant wanted that attic to not count toward their footprint. And I think for the commission, I think, you know, regardless of how that interior space is used, what matters is whether you think it is compatible with the historic structure, appropriate to the structure in the district. I personally think, like, you know, splitting hairs over we're going to use this room this way and we're going to use this space that way doesn't get to the real purpose and intent of the way we review additions to historic structures.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I just want to see everything come back as one proposed addition, because I want to be able to say we're either approving a very large addition with the unique circumstance that you've got a lovely huge lot and a very small footprint at the moment. But I would prefer to be able to see that all, which,
Okay, so if I understand correctly, the revision needs to have the sunroom included as part of the 50%?
and I would say the garage addition. Like we did communicate that really clearly in October. I heard you say a few minutes ago that you weren't here at the October meeting, I think.
I did listen. There was a conversation of some were talking about livable square footage and others were talking about total footprint. So if you need it as total footprint, and then just as like an aside, here's the livable square footage for that, that's fine. Because the total new footprint would be what you're asking for.
I would say I would prefer to see it as total new footprint, because again, like if you sell this house in 2 years and somebody's like, oh, cool, a tandem garage, I would much rather have a study. Like that's effectively what we've provided. So I just would much rather let everybody up here weigh the decision on whether to grant a large exception based on one exception versus the
Understood.
exception of a greenhouse and the garage and the addition.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Okay, that's.
The ask was.
Any members of the public wish to speak on this one? Okay, if not, commissioners, anybody have we do have, actually I should ask, we have a couple of other items. Those we already talked about the garage door,
Yes,
but
sorry,
we do
I'm
have a
high
note on the
maintenance.
porch. So any commissioners have any, I think we're looking at whether we need a condition report on the front side porch prior to a motion?
I think
prior
on
to an
the,
approval?
I think on the porches, we actually have plenty of information
Okay.
on the condition of those, and they are going to be reconstructed in kind to match what was there. So I think we might have not had as many pictures the last time around, but I think we're in good shape on that. There was, on the addition, there was a comment in the staff report regarding the kind of proportions and design of the back patio cover that I don't think was discussed at all at the
No.
previous meeting, because we were talking a lot more about just the overall size. And so that may be something the commission wants to talk about, or you may not have concerns there. But it was another item that was raised in the staff report that hasn't gotten discussed.
Are you familiar with the conditions that staff wants in regard to item 2, reconstruct the screen porch, and 3, front porch? It looks like there's some condition on item 4 regarding replacing the front door. 1 on item 5, replacing garage door.
It's all pretty,
Are you agreeable to those conditions as they listed in their report?
I don't have it in front of me, so I won't agree to it, but,
That's essentially just asking for more documentation.
oh yeah, we can provide more, yeah.
The garage door, I
Yeah.
think, is
Sorry, on the
asking for a
windows and front
material
door.
change, which
Yeah,
we can certainly approve it with that added agreed upon condition that it
Added
is
to
to be
window.
wood and to be submitted to staff for approval.
But yeah, the windows ask for additional documentation of the window sashes that need to be replaced, and then,
And we're actually in good shape on the windows.
oh, you're right on that
Okay.
too. And then on the front door, there's a condition asking you to submit documentation of what glass will be in the door.
okay.
Wow. I
And
think
we will
can
add that
move-
to the submission then, correct?
Yeah, so I think what we would be looking at is a conditional approval of everything but the addition at this
Yeah.
point.
Yes.
Okay, and as long as you are in agreement with those conditions that Caitlin just listed, I think we could go ahead and make a motion on these.
Yes, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve HPCA-25-00068, items 1, 2,
Or not one.
Not one.
yeah, sorry. Items 2, 3, 4, 5, with the specific findings and conditions noted in the staff report.
Or 6,
What
7,
about
and
5,
6,
6,
7, and
7?
8.
6, 7,
Oh, I
and 8.
didn't keep scrolling, sorry. Yes, those two.
And the agreed upon conditions you said?
Yeah, with the agreed upon conditions, specific findings noted in the staff report, and on the door, the agreed upon condition that you will provide the documentation as required.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Y'all will please vote. Okay.
And do you want to continue this to the January meeting or February?
January, please.
Okay, you would need to have everything turned in by next Tuesday?
I think we're just talking about some math
Yeah.
shifts, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And thank you for doing that. I think that is helpful to us moving forward to know exactly how that was handled.
And that'll be the January 7th meeting.
All right, so do you want to make a motion on that one?
Yeah, we'll make a motion to continue to the January 7th meeting, HPCA-25-00068, items 1 and item 6.
Sorry, what's item 6? I thought we just did
I think
6.
just 1.
I think, yeah, just 1.
Sorry, I keep getting,
I want the numbers of.
the numbers make it really.
The way it's ordered versus
it's
the
like
actual
number
item
6,
number.
Item 1.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, it's just item 1 now.
just item 1, sorry.
Second.
Okay, we'll see you in January.
thank you so much.
All right. moving on to HVCA 25-00093 in Mesta Park.
This is at Northwest 16th Street, Mesta Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application by Brittany Portree, James Gray Homes for Ashley and Forrest Wilson for certificate of appropriateness to 1, install 2-inch by 3-inch outlets in the soffits at the north elevation elective. This is not something that you all typically see at the commission, but we also typically don't get requests and don't approve requests to cut into and install equipment in the soffit on the historic front porch. Staff has recommended a continuance on this and would encourage the applicant to consider some other locations that are not in the historic structure and not in the soffit.
Okay, and just to clarify, we're not talking about the porch ceiling. We're talking about the soffit protruding out from the porch ceiling.
Yes.
Okay.
On the historic portion
Right,
of the
yes.
house. And this
Okay.
is a house where you all recently approved a large addition that is partly on the side of the house, if you'll recall.
Applicants present, so would you state your name and address for the record?
Sure, Britt Portree. It's 628 Northwest 16th Street.
Okay. I think we heard, the project's pretty simple, so I don't think you need to explain it again, but my only question is why the front? Or why the front and the old?
Well, I mean, we're happy to move it to the soffit of the addition. Our goal is to be able to just have plugs so that we can install Christmas lights.
Could it be at the rear of the addition?
Yes. We would like to have 2, though, kind of on one side of the house or the other side of the house. Y'all can choose the location of those, but 2 would be preferred.
Could they be at the southeast corner and the southwest corner at the rear?
The soffit on the southwest corner, no, there's no soffit on the first story of the southwest corner in the back. Yeah.
So this is one, one of the pictures I'm looking at is the front soffit. I mean, if you put it in there,
Yeah, like kind of where that floodlight is.
yeah, I'm looking at the other screen, but I mean, in my opinion, if it's white, it's this big. I don't know how tall that soffit is, but it's pretty high up there. I mean, I think I don't have a problem with that. I think that's one of those usability things with a house. I don't think you're really ever going to notice it as long as it's done well. I think it causes more problems when you've got extension cords flying all over the place and somebody's trying to utilize a plug that's in the back because we can't put one in the front. So it's not lights, it's not permanent lights. I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I think the issue is that the guidelines state that it's not to be done. So if there is a location that, I see what you mean, I wasn't visualizing the back stretch of this house correctly. But I mean, if there are places that are not front facing and are not historic soffit, it seems highly preferable.
I would agree if that works for you.
But I think
It's not possible, then that's a different scenario.
well, if the intended use is for Christmas lights, the Christmas lights are going to be on the front of the house. And so, I mean, I think that while it might be functional that you could put a light in the rear, that it doesn't solve the problem. I have a question about the photo that is of outlets that appear to already be installed somewhere in a ceiling or a soffit.
I think that's a different house.
Oh, it's a different house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that something that we approved? Or
I am not sure where that
knows?
photo is from. That was from the applicant.
Okay.
But see, nothing about that material is historic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. On my house, the Christmas lights go all the way around. So at any point, you find the closest outlet and that's where you plug them in. And I think it's pretty typical throughout all of these neighborhoods that people put up lights and they figure out how to make it work with the electrical that they have. Staff felt like with the opportunity of building a large addition on a house, that would be the most appropriate place to accommodate modern amenities like outlets and such, rather than cutting into and compromising the integrity of the 100-plus-year-old, beadboard soffit.
I agree. Like, we see so many issues with soffit deteriorating anyway. I would highly prefer not to cut into it if it can go simply, across on the other side, basically on the other side of the porch.
I do have a question. I do have a question, just from looking at these. In the photos, you see a couple of light fixtures that I would assume are not original. With the two floodlights.
Those were not included as part of this. Yes, they are existing. I think those are being removed and relocated as part of the overall project.
No, we didn't get approved to add more floodlights. We're keeping the existing ones.
Okay, they're there and they're
So
staying there.
you do, they are being kept and they are utilized? Okay. Is there, what would, if, since those are non-historic or anything, is there anything that would prevent them from, and I'm not an electrician, from maybe kind of redoing those and including an outlet in that whole type of thing, if you could come with some type of fixture? I'm just trying to give you solutions that come to my mind.
It just seemed like they were open to moving them to the new, so I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like we're.
So you might look into that. Because I think we're moving towards a continuance here. And I'll say if you, since we have something that's obviously not historic and not an original part of the home that's under the soffit, if there would be some type of way maybe to incorporate outlets into that, if there's such a product. Caitlin, you would probably know better than I would.
I mean, if there's power already there in the soffit, it's very easy to add an outlet. There aren't, you know, a bunch of exterior floodlight combo
Right.
outlets out there.
I think from a CA perspective,
Yeah.
you know, the guidelines say if you're removing a non-historic feature, you take it back to the historic
Sure,
condition.
okay.
And the historic condition
There,
would be
thanks.
soffit, not an outlet.
Okay.
We would be back in the same conversation again.
Okay. Thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
Is there a pathway for approval if I move the soffit plugs to the addition?
Sure.
I think they can approve it with the condition that they be relocated to the addition and that that be submitted to staff.
Okay, does it matter the elevation of the addition?
I would have a strong preference for it being on the east elevation, even if it's close to the front of the house.
Sure.
I just think, why not, if it still accomplishes your goals, like to not have it on the front, but
Is that okay with you?
Yes, that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Then I'll make a motion on HPCA 25-00093 to approve item number 11 with the modifications that were stated to move it onto the east elevation, and you'll supply a
Yes.
picture for that.
Yes.
great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. If y'all would please vote in Prime Gov. Okay, congratulations. Enjoy your electricity.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have HPCA 25-00099 in Jefferson Park.
This is at 315 Northwest 26th Street, Jefferson Park, Ward 2. Consideration and possible action on application by Luis Torres, RD Contracting, for Kirsten Scott over the top roofing and construction, for certificate of appropriateness to 1, renovate dwelling required, 2, construct addition, elective, 3, install fence and mechanical equipment required, and 4, replace driveway and sidewalks required. This is one the commission has seen a number of times under a previous application that was never approved, and then again under this application this time around. Staff has been working closely with this applicant since the previous meeting to acquire the necessary documentation. We have recommended approval with conditions that some remaining materials and dimensions, detailed site plan be submitted to staff. Essentially, we're confident and that we have enough information to know that what they have presented and applied for meets the applicable guidelines and is approvable. We just have some final details hanging out there to get from them. They're out of continuances, but we think all of it is within the realm of what can be just a submittal to staff.
Okay, is the applicant present? That's unfortunate. Katie, do you feel comfortable that, I mean, it is a lot of information that's missing, but
I believe they are agreeable to, oh, no, they were not on the, we do not have their consent on the width of the driveway, which was one of the conditions. So that cannot be approved because they're not present to agree to that condition. I think everything else, they were,
That one was already poured, right?
oh, and the fence. So we can't approve the fence, we can't approve the driveway, although both of those are things that could be approved by staff once we have the information we need. So those both need to be denied.
So they would have to submit an entirely new application. Any reason they, I don't think have they come before commission?
Been here once.
Okay, once. Just an awful lot of questions that
Yeah.
would be lovely to have a,
So what if instead of the commission denying it, you continued it and then you administratively?
They're out of
approved it?
continuance.
Oh, out of the,
Yeah.
ah.
Yep,
Well,
this is their
have to
third,
do
this
one
is
or
their
the
third
other?
at bat. Yep.
Okay.
I mean,
I think
if
it's
you,
their sixth.
yeah, if you feel comfortable for us approving the others, you know, it seems a shame to make them come back and pay the commission fee for all the things that are already, you know, recommended for approval if the other two things can be worked out administratively.
I am comfortable working with the applicant towards completion of this project. The worst-case scenario is that they not comply, and then it fails. So I don't have any issues with an approval contingent upon working with staff.
So let me just get this right. Even though they have said that they don't agree to conditions, we could still approve it with the conditions, and they would have to comply or not do it at all.
I think that for the two items where they have not yet agreed, the fence and the driveway, we can't approve that with conditions that they haven't agreed to, and they're not here to agree to it. So I think those two items would have to be denied. They could come back at any time, and we could administratively approve those so long as they meet the guidelines, and they wouldn't have to come back to the commission.
But we can approve everything else.
We could approve items 1 and 2,
Okay.
the renovation and the addition, with the conditions that they have previously agreed to with staff.
So is that,
Communication with
is
staff.
that in the code somewhere that we have to have their approval for conditions?
They have to agree to the conditions. Yeah.
In order for us to approve, they have to, I mean, by definition, agreed upon between the two of us for an approval.
Not by
I mean,
definition.
it's super unfortunate, but also it is their sixth opportunity to, you know, so
Yeah.
that really stinks. And I'm sure y'all don't want to review it yet again, but it seems like procedurally, that's the only option.
I agree.
It just seems weird that there has to be a pre-agreement to the conditions.
Katie, can we check the site plan for the fence location? There was a final revision, but my printed document is inaccurate.
While we look at this, are there any members of the public who would like to speak to this matter?
Katie, I do have another question, and this is just going, have they already actually done the driveway at wider than what it's supposed to be? Am I looking at, because this driveway in this photograph looks new.
Yeah, I think they've
So
done,
this-
they've done a significant amount of work already.
Oh, okay, all right. That,
The site plan still doesn't have a dimension for the fence, so I can't tell on that. I'm sorry.
I make a motion to approve items 1 and 2 of HPCA-00099, subject to the findings, and if there are any conditions on either of those, agreed upon by the parties here.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next motion.
I would make a motion to deny items 3 and 4 of HPCA-25-00099
With prejudice or without?
without.
All right, would you guys, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, those two items are denied. All right, next up, we have HPCA 25-00110 in Mesta Park.
This is at 1006 Northwest 17th Street, Mesta Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application by Sarah Wernicke, Old Home Rescue, for Wesley Delaney for certificate of appropriateness to 1, construct second story on non-historic garage elective, 3, alter west window opening elective, 6, expand patio and deck elective, 7, install new pergola accessory structure elective, and 8, install storm windows at primary dwelling elective. We've recommended approval of items 3, 6, 7, and 8 with some conditions for additional, I think, information to be submitted in the staff report, and then we have recommended continuance on the garage. The applicant has requested a continuance on that. They're still working on new information for the commission.
Okay, applicant is present. Would you state your name and address, please?
Yes, Sarah Wernicke, Old Home Rescue at 1006 Northwest 17th Street.
Okay, thank you. So if you're continuing the garage, it seems fairly simple. Commissioners, any questions, comments, et cetera? Katie, when an applicant has requested a continuance, is there any need to discuss the garage while they are here? Is it an option for her if she wants to?
I think it was discussed previously. If the applicant wants another round of discussion, that's available. But I think they were.
I think we have new faces here from October, so I just wanted to see if she wanted to discuss. Is she allowed to?
Yeah. Am I allowed? So I've been trying really hard to get this thing to not look massive, and I basically been unsuccessful. So one of the things that I have been in talks with city staff with is alternatives to the addition onto the garage. Maybe making an addition onto the backside of the house on that L that projects out. That raises some other issues about the proximity, and it has to do with the proximity of the garage to the house. So we are still working through that. I was hoping that we could have something for you guys to consider today, but it has been tricky to try to get, to do our due diligence for our client and get them at least a little bit of extra square footage that they are desiring out of this project, while still, following the guidelines and listening to the commission's wants and needs for this thing. So that's where I'm at with that is I don't think that the 2-story, adding a second story onto the garage, though on paper looks like the best option, but visually from the public right-of-way, I don't think it's going to work out and still have enough head height to actually use that as a space to move around in. So then, it was like, okay, well, what might an addition onto the back of the house look like? Everything from a little bitty, like 125 square foot addition that's 1 story, to making that all the way 2-story, but then that encroaches upon the garage. And if I can do that even per code, and then even, less, maybe less desirable on with the guidelines and with the commission, but kind of alleviates that proximity issue, is creating a low 1-story hyphen that connects the existing garage to the backside of the house. So I'm still exploring the options, and have been working with Angela and her staff on this one to try to figure out something for this part of our project, of our overall project.
Okay, well, I know we all appreciate your due diligence. So thank you.
So if anybody has any, I don't know if I can ask the commission on feels about
I don't think
if
we can
there's a
speak to that since it
direction.
hasn't been proposed, correct?
I don't think there's,
Only the garage.
I don't think there's enough information
Yeah.
for you all to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fair.
See you next
Just
time.
thought I would ask. So, but yeah, but that's the only piece, but everything else, I think we have answered the questions.
Okay. We have a lot of stuff from Mesta Park. Did we get any neighborhood comments on anything?
No.
I don't see it loaded anywhere, but I just wanted to confirm.
We did not get comments from anyone on anything this month. Everyone is already on
Holidays.
holiday. Yes.
I was waiting for them and then never got.
Yeah. Okay, well, any members of the public wish to speak about this project? Commissioners, any other thoughts, questions?
I'll make a motion on HPCA 25-00110 to approve items 3, 6, 7, and 8.
Do we have conditions listed?
With conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and Caitlin, you seconded? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, that motion passes. Enjoy all of those items.
Thank you.
And then I move continuance of HPCA 25-00110 to continue item number 1 until,
Do you want January or February?
If I could get February, that'd be great. Just give me
it's the-
that much more time.
February
Wish is our
4th.
command.
February 4th.
February 4th? Thank you.
February 4th.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll see you in
Thank you.
February. Moving on to 631 Northwest 17th Street, also in Mesta Park.
This is Mesta Park, Ward 6, consideration and possible action on application by Britt Portree, James Gray Homes for Ryan Carter for certificate of appropriateness to 1, demolish garage elective, 2, construct 2-story garage elective, and 3, to provide a recommendation to the Board of Adjustment on a variance to the minimum parking requirements for single-family residential, section 59-10250.8. This is an application that the commission has seen previously and continued with further discussion about the design, the height, et cetera. The applicant has provided some revised documentation. We've also confirmed that if it were to be built back in the current footprint, that they would need a variance to the requirement for parking in single-family residential, because you have to provide 2 parking spaces, which can be in the driveway, but their driveway is not long enough to qualify as those 2 spaces. So if the commission moves to approve this today, they would also need to provide that recommendation on a variance to that section of the code. Staff, at this point, staff did recommend approval of the demolition that has been documented as a justifiable step to be taken. We do not see the justification there for a 2-story garage in this location based on the fact that the existing garage is 1 story. There's not a predominance of 2-story garages on the block, and have recommended denial on that basis. This does have 1 continuance remaining, though, so you could choose, instead of a denial, to continue it for further discussion.
Okay, all right, thank you. Applicant is present. If you would state your name and address.
Britt Portree, 631 Northwest 17th.
Okay, why don't we start with some changes that were made since we've last seen you? I know you've diminished the height and diminished some of the lighting choices. Anything else substantial that we should be noting?
Yeah, so David last time recommended that we add a capital trim piece on the trim where the garage doors are. We added that to the new design, and then we specified that we wanted the garage doors to be painted.
Okay. Commissioners, questions?
So it's still the same 2-story, same structure?
I'm seeing that you submitted some research on two-story garages on the same block, or it looks like staff did the research?
We sent a precedent study, so we have 3 other 2-story apartment garages on the same block, and then we have 5 on the adjacent blocks surrounding, and then there's that large 2-story apartment complex that's catty corner. And then we confirmed the Carters have a 3-story home. The total height of the house is, we're estimating 35 to 37 feet.
What is we didn't really touch on this a whole lot last time, as far as I can remember, but what's the motivation for not wanting to move the location of the garage?
Well, we don't want to if we don't have to. We don't want to take out any trees. We don't want to cut into the yard. We spoke with zoning, and they felt like that though we do have to go through an application process, there is a path for approval to keep it in the location that it is because it's a historic garage. And so we'd like to pursue that first before we get more invasive.
Okay.
Katie, you said that staff said that there weren't a preponderance of 2 stories on that block
There are 3 out of 11, I think.
in the alley? Okay. Some of them are barely garages.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it looks like on that block, so not necessarily that alley, but 17th Street, 600 block, it looks like there are currently 3 2-story garages.
And the language in the guideline is specifically dominant on the block?
I need to just not turn this off because I can't turn it back on. So first and foremost, it's if we know that you had a 1-story, you are supposed to go back with a 1-story. But then beyond that, it says if there's an abutting 2-story or if they are predominant on the block. And I think you all can use your discretion in assessing what predominant means.
Can you also clarify, I always mean to look this up exactly and see exactly what the language is, but what it says about Mesta Park has a really weird vertical addition rule that nobody else has. What does it specifically state? Unusual, not weird, unusual. Uncommon.
I don't believe that is in the staff report because that is in the guidelines specifically for additions and not for new garages.
Is it applicable to garages or should it be disregarded for garages?
Well, it's for additions, so it's potentially applicable for an addition to a garage. I don't know that it would be relevant for construction of a new garage.
Okay.
Just like if you were building a 2-story house, that wouldn't be relevant.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, our goal with this garage is to maintain that it's a secondary dwelling. We don't want to make a second residence. Ryan and Mallory just would like some space. They have 3 kiddos, and so they're wanting to use the 2nd story as a space for their carpentry. Also, one thing that's not shown in this, it's in the engineer's report, but the inside of this garage has a foundation change of about 3 feet, and so you can't park a car in it. Now I know that you guys are recommending demolition, but given that it's a 3-story house and we're wanting to build a 2-story garage, it remains secondary, but I'll leave that to you guys.
I think for me, often what we weigh when considering these 2-story garages, whether they have neighboring 2-story garages or nothing within 5 blocks, is massing. So as related to the house, I feel like the massing is appropriate, and I could personally see a circumstance in which we came up with a lot of unique circumstances to approve it. That said, due to the location of it so near, like the massing feels extreme because it is so close to the North-South Street, which is really unusual for any garages. Obviously, we don't see a ton of them up and down like Lee or Chartel or things, but specifically for a 2-car, just a few feet off the sidewalk, the massing feels pretty heavy. I never want to take out a tree. I mean, I am letting a tree totally ruin my soon-to-be brand-new driveway just to keep the tree. So I get it. For me, I could see approving like a 1 or 1.5 story where it is, or I could see approving a 2-story back up off the street, or even looking into, be open to considering like alley access versus long driveway. But for me, the massing of it like hovering over the street feels out of sync. Not unattractive, but out of sync.
Yeah, do we have the photos that were shown in October of what it looks like looking into the alley? Yeah, the other direction, because right across from there, that one, going back one. We have that 2-story, and then the Carter's house is a 3-story, and then Catty Corner is an apartment complex. And so I hear you theoretically, but when you're standing in the space, I'm not sure that I completely
down the street.
agree.
I stand in that space a lot.
Sure.
I get it. That's just for me, like the massing feels like a lot. And that's just like, corner lots are a big blessing and a curse. Like they have so much more exposure. They often have more space. This one is tighter than most, for sure. Just my 2 cents. Somebody else may have an entirely different opinion, but for me, it's just kind of the massing in that specific space.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, I'd love to get to a way where there could be a yes, but butting right up to that street makes it challenging. I'm looking at the aerial, and it is a lot of good trees in that yard. Like, it's dense, it's pretty dense foliage, which is a shame. I mean, it's great, but.
You have the one page that has the design, but it only has, there's not a front design.
There was a front conceptual somewhere because I remember it showing the painted doors. If I can find it.
I do have a question. This garage is so odd to me, but we believe it's the historic garage?
I cannot be convinced.
No, I mean, but, or we don't believe it is the historic garage?
Staff report says that it's presumed to be historic.
Historic, which,
I think it's a modified version of the original garage is my
right there
2 cents.
specifically is what makes me question it. You can see there is,
An addition.
the height of it is actually a facade.
Mm-hmm. And it's got a weird shed
Yeah.
roof slope.
I don't know.
I think it was probably a smaller garage, and it's been weirdly modified. We've used the term Frankenstein on a few houses that we just kind of can't figure out exactly like what the original historic nature was, and that's kind of how I view. I certainly have no disagreement with, the fact that it's not contributing to the historic character of the neighborhood at the moment.
Well, I just get back to that point of I'm an outlier here, but the way I read the guideline is that if you have a 1-story historic garage, then it has to go back as a 1-story garage. And I know part of my commission members disagree with me on that, but that's my position from reading that part of the guideline, because it says, that when you don't know what the historic garage is, then it can be 2-story under these circumstances. So I read it that you stop. As soon as you know what the historic garage is, you stop and you replace it with exactly what's there.
But see, I agree, but I don't think this is the historic reform. And so that's a huge unknown.
Right, that's why I was asking, because the staff report makes it sound as if it is the historic garage. My eyes are looking at it saying this is, and when I'm saying it's the historic garage, I mean it is the original garage in the state it was when the house it was built. I doubt seriously if this is the garage in the state that it was when the house was built. So I look at it, then you can move to the second part. I need a reason to move to the second part of the guideline to allow, to even get to, can we put a 2-story garage there?
Sure.
And so
This is the 1922 Sanborn map. So, certainly what we have today is in the approximate footprint of the historic garage. But yeah, I don't know how much of that is original fabric and how much has been modified or added onto over the years.
Sounds good. So just kind of a note in the future, come in and show me something that's not historic with the garage before I can move to the, me personally as a commissioner, can move to the second part of it. And my eyes here tell me this is not it. And even looking at it from the front, it's so odd looking, the amount of wood and how high it is above the garage doors. I'm like going, that's not a historic garage.
Yeah, it feels
I have a
odd.
theory that somebody cut the top of it off when they wanted to put power lines in right there.
It's true.
See if there's anybody from the public here.
Yeah, anybody from the public want to speak to this one? Give us your opinions. Anybody?
So what was the additional height from where the top is right now to where it will be with the new second story? Because I know that you had a side-by-side where it was coming up some, but it doesn't have a dimension for that.
Like the change in heights, like what is that change?
Total height,
The- Oh, the total height of the new garage, 24.
And it's currently 1310. Now, there is a weird grade change, so you could argue that it's 1410 from alley street level.
But it still would be.
Yeah, that's a good question. Would you be keeping the new structure at the current grade, or would it come down? Because that would change, how big it feels up against the street.
Can it come down?
It would make it awkward moving from the garage to the backyard, but I think that that's something that we could definitely explore. The goal is to hopefully get approved for a 2-story garage. And so if that requires some design changes, I think that we can absolutely discuss that. That would take off 2.5 feet.
I definitely don't want to create a scenario, though, where the garage is sitting below grade from the
Right.
backyard and we just have a drainage problem and, the garage is just receiving downstream water because it's 2 feet lower than it currently is right now, or whatever, 18 inches lower than it currently is.
Yeah, I just wondered if there's like a happy medium somewhere between if they are able to find a way to push it back and then come down a little to just make that massing up against the street be a little more palatable if we were going to be trying to move towards a 2-story.
The home itself is also on a hill, and so I don't see any issue with grading towards the street if you're worried about it moving into the garage or
Yeah, I mean,
off.
about it coming, I'm sorry. From 17th Street towards the alley, so moving north, like down that grade, because it does flow. Like 17th Street is higher than 18th Street. So I'd be worried about it coming, like right now, that might be why that is done that way, is to not have, most of our garages sit below the grade of our house, but it's annoying. It rots the wood at the bottom of the building, so.
Well, the garage is already below the grade of the home as it is, but I do hear you.
But you seek improvement with the new one, right? Like you don't want to replicate previous problems or anything like that?
Well, house grade and dirt grade is different. Obviously the house is above, is higher than that.
Yes, and then to get into the
Foundation. And the dirt
garage, you
flows
have to
down
take
to it.
3 steps
Yeah.
into it, so yeah.
So did you say you're okay moving it back or not?
Can you say it one more time?
Moving it back into the yard with a longer driveway?
Yeah, that's something that we can explore.
Because I don't think it would have as much of a massing problem from the street if it was moved back some, because there are taller structures back in there.
Yeah, I really hate to see y'all lose that tree. But I think, like, if you want the 2-story garage, that's probably.
We do have to rebuild that retaining wall anyway. We're going to be doing lots of foundation and grading work just to
So you're not sure you'd
improve
keep it anyway when you
that.
You're into that.
And
But even
so-
if you built it at the same grade, it would still be sitting below. You would have exterior concrete retaining walls where you'd have to have, you know, the exterior insulation and your drainage mat and all of those things.
Yeah.
So whether that's there or another foot below, you're still constructing it the same way. So I think that would be doable, combined with moving it back, which depending on how close you get to the lot line, there still may be
Well,
you
I
know,
think if it-
variance and other things you need to shoot for, but
Yeah, I think if it was moved back, I think the massing would be better, and you also wouldn't have to get the variance for the street distance. Or would
If
you?
we were to move it all the way back to where we would get that full 18 feet, I would need to look in our model, but say we can't move it the full 18 feet. Is there a recommendation that, or whatever the driveway is right now, then plus some to get to 18?
Well, no, I mean, I was just thinking if you moved it back, it wouldn't have to get the variance. If you have to get the variance, I
Right.
mean, that's,
I just don't know that I could move it back enough. Like, say the driveway is 8 feet long, I
Right.
would have to move it back 10 feet.
Yeah.
And I just need to double check. I can't
Yeah, I
commit to that
mean,
here.
my opinion is that if you can get it moved, like, let's say, subjectively, substantially back from where it currently is, like, I would be in favor of making a recommendation to issue that variance if it's like a best attempt at getting it to a tucked away location. I don't know what that does to your lot coverage. I don't think it's been relevant to this point because we've been talking about the existing footprint. I don't
yeah.
know what that concrete I know that's like a tight lot, but I just don't have any clue what that would do. There's probably some creative scenarios at play there, though, for where to put it and remediation and whatever. For me, like the fact that there's 3 two-story garages on the block is really irrelevant because that's not many, but I do think the unique circumstance for me would be that we don't know what the historic roof form is.
yeah.
Whether it's 2
And
stories
if you're
or not.
actually in that alley, it feels like there's a lot of them. I mean, it feels very enclosed. Maybe that's because the houses to the south are
Density
taller.
feels more appropriate in an
so-
alley than it does
I
on
don't
main
have a problem with
thoroughfare.
the two-story. If you're going to come back, I would prefer it be set back a little bit just because of the massing on the street being so close.
Sure.
That's my opinion.
So, what I am hearing is that everything stays the same. We represent it going back, or we approve as if it were going back. What is the path forward? I wouldn't be able, if I'm thinking about this right, the timeline would be such where I would present for you guys first before I get an answer with zoning.
I think we'd probably like to see where it's going to sit unless staff feels comfortable, just because it's a new location, so I don't think it could be administratively approved on a new building in a new location.
We just move it as far back as
Right,
possible.
I mean, you all could approve it with the condition that they move it back, but I think without knowing exactly how far back they can move it and whether or not that's even going to work out for your site, to me, there's too many question marks.
And we couldn't make a
And
recommendation
it'd
to
be,
move
right,
forward
it
with
would be
BOA.
difficult.
yeah, especially if she's not sure what that distance is anyway. So
Right.
she could move it all the way back and it's only at 16 feet and she still has to get the variance anyway. But I do think we should know where that sits first and, you know, what the grading is going to look like as far as how tall it sits on the site.
We do have a couple of other items in here that might be, items is not the right word, finer points in these findings that might be worth talking about. Just while we have you here, where were they? Lights. There's a specific finding on changing the lights. And changing the window pane pattern and, oh, that's zoning, we talked about that. So I think just reading through these findings, staff is basically finding that it's still a little too high style. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what we're, yeah. Basically, we just want garages to kind of go away.
Sure.
So
Are you talking about the lights specifically?
it says the lights and the window panes. Basically that we don't really typically see, like, you know, you've got really plain window panes on the existing garage.
Well, the report, the way that I read the report was that commission and staff would like the windows of the garage, I think in the house, it's an 8/2 to match. So would we like something that's like, this 1/1, or would we like to match the main house?
I actually thought we were talking about the windows on the garage doors, but maybe I misread that.
I think it's talking about the windows on the windows on the garage that are
The 3/1s?
the 3/1s, and that going with something similar to what's in the existing structure, just a 1/1, is more typical of what we see in garages, and it helps to make it feel more secondary.
I just want to add that the windows on the house are 1/1 mostly. There's still some more decorative windows, but most of those
Okay,
are
I'm having to
1/1.
resync this because I read it incorrectly. I was looking at the garage doors this whole time because I don't remember approving garage doors with the ornamental panel pane windows.
Yeah, does staff have any issues with that?
I don't know that we raised that as an item.
See, I think that the uppers look appropriate and still feel pretty secondary, not super ornamental. I mean, if they were the 36/1s or something, I would disagree. But to me, it's actually like my eye keeps going to that topper of the garage doors.
I would say we typically don't see those because the guidelines say they have to be true divided light, and nobody wants to buy a garage door with true divided light window panes in it.
Is that what you're wanting on the garage doors, the 4 divided?
We're
It's
talking
a
about
6.
the windows or the garage door?
Garage door, the windows in the garage
The
door
windows
itself?
in the garage door. We're happy
have
with
4.
whatever recommendation
Okay.
you guys have for that, or staff.
Yeah, I think just make those single pane.
When you price them, you might want
Single
something.
pane on the garage doors?
Yeah, the windows rather than divided, right?
That the windows in the garage door be just single pane, no
Yes.
muntins. And then
So
do we have direction for the applicant on the actual windows in the garage itself? on
Right, to
those
be
being
1/1.
Do we
1/1?
approve garage doors with windows? Am I losing my mind? I feel like I've gotten myself confused. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just not as ornamental as that.
Okay. Like I said, I reviewed this completely flipping those two around in my mind, so it's taking me a minute to recenter.
All right, was that clear, or did we make that super confusing for you?
Confused myself, so probably confused.
I think
Yeah,
we're
so-
basically saying no muntins
Yeah.
anywhere on the garage. That's what I'm hearing from.
And then I will say, if you do explore pushing it back on the lot, even if you get all the way to the lot edge, I see that's where you've got your stair in that door. Typically between 0 and 5 feet, you can't have any openings. So
And to staff's point,
check that.
they do have windows on the side of the house, that side of the house, that have like 9/9 divided light. So maybe that's what you guys were going for.
Yeah, I was going over, well, I wasn't sure if the 1/1s on the front elevation of the main home were original, but I did know that the ones in the gable, that are like the 8/2 are original, but I can just work with staff on their
Yeah, I think-
recommendation for the material.
Pretty easy fix, so, okay.
Okay.
All right.
So we can continue to January 7th or to February 4th.
Let's do February 4th. We're going to get structural in there to collaborate with us on that foundation.
Do we need to continue the demo, though?
Do you want it all continued, or you want it broken out?
I would like to only continue what's necessary, just for simplicity's sake.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get that demo approved unless anybody has an objection, but it sounds like everybody's definitely on the same page there.
Were there any, like the lights, or, I know that we're talking about the windows
I mean,
again,
I think the
but-
lights need to be less ornamental.
Sure.
Make them boring.
But that would be part of the number 2, so.
Yeah.
It's all together.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion on HPCA 25-00112 for approval of number 1. Yeah, just number 1 with the findings of facts.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Did we confuse you too? Caitlin.
I did, sorry.
Okay, that is continued to February, so that is approved.
Then I make a
That's
motion,
approved. Let's talk about the next one now.
a motion to continue items number 2 and 3 to the February meeting.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right. Okay, we'll see you about that one in February.
Thank you.
All right, next up, HPCA 25-00125 in Paseo.
This is at 708 Northwest 25th Street. Consideration and possible action on application by Fallon Brooks Magnus, Jolly-Bird Design, for Reno Varghese for certificate of appropriateness to 1, replace driveway and parking, elective; 2, renovate garage by increasing height of walls, elective; 3, install sloped roof, elective; 4, replace back door, and 5, replace garage doors, elective. This is, I think, an even more unusual garage, existing garage, that is a cinder block structure, as you can see, flat roof, kind of barn-style doors. They would like to just make the walls of the garage slightly taller and then add a pitched roof on top. So we,
This whole house is a mess, man.
I think staff is comfortable with assessing this garage as not contributing to the historic character of the property and district.
Why not?
We don't know the age, but it's definitely not our most significant historic fabric. And, you know, as we were kind of discussing, adding the pitched roof is perhaps just doing no further harm and is creating a form that is more consistent with the character of the neighborhood. Essentially, if they requested demolition of this and construction of a one-story garage with a pitched roof, we would recommend approval of that, and I kind of look at this as being comparable to that request. So you do have a recommendation to either continue it or approve, depending on if you wanted to see further revisions or needed more information about the existing garage, or you can approve as proposed.
Okay, would you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Fallon Brooks Magnus, Jolly-Bird Design, 11 Northeast 11th Street, representing the applicant.
All right, welcome.
Everything Katie said, I mean, it's a mess. This whole house, the whole property has really been an exercise in how can we make it look reasonable without, you know, making it worse.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty straightforward. I kind of didn't understand the staff report because it says you can do this or you can do this, and it was like, well, the findings are all the same. So, I mean.
Well, we don't see things like this very often, so.
It's worth saving because it's pretty solid. We think it was built in the 50s, judging by a lot of the materials inside. So, and it's actually kind of cool. It's got a little yard back here that opens out to an alley that you can actually walk down. So, it's neat.
My only question that I don't see without looking, the driveway, are you replacing it with basically what's there?
Yeah, I think there's like a radius that adds 0.6% to the lot coverage. So, it's good.
Yeah, I think this is all reasonable.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
I'll move to approve items 1 through 5 of HPCA-25-00125 with the specific findings noted in this.
Caitlin, real fast, I'm sorry, any public comments on this one?
Sorry.
We do.
Okay, there being none, I think we're also going to need a unique circumstance on this.
I second.
Really?
Do we? I think?
I don't think you do.
Or is it because you listed all of those?
Yeah, there's all the specific
Okay,
findings.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes. Move to approve items 1 through 5 with the specific findings noted in the staff report.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All righty.
Oh, we had public comments, is that? Or we didn't? You just forgot to say it. Okay, sorry.
Okay, just making sure I didn't miss anything. Okay.
I similarly have a cinder block garage that is circa 1954, so you're.
Yep. It was all the rage in the
Lovely.
mid-century.
I've never seen one on this commission before.
It's vertical. There's that.
You what?
It's vertical.
It is. There's a cinder block house on the street, actually.
I've seen a
One
cinder block
down,
house.
yeah.
I think there's one on
There's one on my
Penn,
street, too. Yeah.
Okay, well, you're approved.
All right, thank you.
Good
Wait
luck
to
to
see
you.
it when it's done.
I'm just gonna stay right here because I'm next again.
Oh, you're the next one too. Okay, all right. Well, HVCA 25-00126 in Mesta Park.
This is at 523 Northwest 18th Street, application by Fallon Brooks Magnus, Jellybird Design for Sarah Farzana, Sapphire Estates, for certificate of appropriateness to item 2, construct new 2-story garage elective, and item 9, install rear gate elective. The commission saw this previously, and I believe we did approve the demolition of an existing accessory structure, if I'm remembering that correctly, but continued the proposed construction of the garage with some direction to reduce the size, amongst other comments. The applicant has come back with, so what was initially proposed was a true 3-car garage, 2 stories. It's now proposed at a 2-story garage, or a 2-story, 2-car garage with an attached carport structure, but is still over the size that the guidelines support, and also does not appear to meet criteria in the guidelines that support a 2-story garage. So staff has recommended continuance on this item.
Okay. State your name and address again, please.
Fallon Brooks Magnus, Jellybird Design, 11 Northeast 11th Street, representing the applicant.
Okay, all right, thank you. I was not here last month, so this is my first time
Okay.
reviewing this one. I think I'm kind of up to speed on what the changes were from then to now, but bear with me.
We basically came in last month with just the biggest footprint that we could fit and the
I thought you were going to say of all time.
of all time. No. Oh no, actually, I think I've had a bigger one. And the idea with the 3 cars was because there's 2 units on the property, and it was, so we reduced it to 2 with the loft above, and then the 2 bays are 12 feet wide, plus there's a demising wall between them because they're for 2 separate units, and then there's a door that goes in the backyard. So as far as the footprint there, I'm sorry, not the door, the stairs next to it, that brought us to we're still at 600 square feet, but I think if you look at, I think it's page 6 in the submittal, there's a list of all the square footages for the garages on the block, and we're well within the normal range for that block. So I think we reduced it quite.
The block being 18th Street or the block being the alley?
The alley, everything off of the alley, because I mean to me that would be the
Yeah,
point of
it's just you have
comparison.
so many original, this is probably not an original multifamily, but the ones in the alley were built as 4plexes or more.
That's fair,
So,
but it's been a multifamily for, I mean,
I moved there in 2014 on that block, so for way longer than that.
The property's been multifamily for a number of years, a long time. It was converted actually quite early on, I think. So I'm not sure how relevant it is that it wasn't originally, but it has been for a long time. And I don't know. I mean, we're not egregiously over. I think the largest one on the block is almost 900 square feet. So.
What is your lot coverage with this? I'm sorry, I'm looking through here.
You're fine. I'll have to pull it up real quick. I did not memorize that.
I know I saw it.
That says it's going from 58 to 61.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Commissioners, any thoughts on the proposed changes since some of you have reviewed this already?
I will say the 2 commissioners that recommended the changes that we made are not here.
Convenient.
Yeah. But when we walked away last month, it was pretty much, I felt like, a consensus that we had some direction, and that's what we came back with. So I don't think that we've asked for anything too crazy.
So, I am so sorry. You've got a nice large, okay. I'm struggling with, there's a couple of concerns I have, but I'm largely struggling with the design of the carport. The carport attachment is what's my first and foremost biggest concern. I think that, and somebody can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that on 18th Street, we approved a new garage build where it was a 2-car garage with an attached parking pad, but not with an overhang and a gate, and it kind of just disappear. I actually want to say it was like, they proposed it as gravel, I think, like some sort of parkable gravel, and we couldn't approve that because the city doesn't approve it. So I think that we approved it with like a parking pad.
Yeah, it was just like a, kind of like elbowed off to the side.
Am I dreaming that? I thought it was an alley access driveway on the, let me think, 600 block of 18th on the south side.
I don't know.
Okay, when I saw this one, I was like, man, that would be a great setup for right here without this kind of like, you know, the attachment of this carport setup.
I think the scale is still appropriate to the main structure. It's appropriate to the property, and it's mid-block. It's not visible from the street, and there's a
With
lot
the,
of
sorry, you think
factors.
the
I think
carport
that, sorry, say that again.
That the carport is?
Yeah, none of that part of it I think would be visible from the street, because you sit pretty high up from the street already, and then you're way back behind, and we're 6, almost 7 feet
So
shorter
is
than
that
the
parking for
house.
the garage apartment?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is that parking for the garage apartment?
It's not an apartment. No, it's just for an extra space, because there's 2 garage spaces, and then in the front, on the driveway in the front, there's a parking pad, and so this allows for 2 units to have 2 spaces each. So
What is the, and it's probably in here, but you might know, what is the total width of this, oh wow, the CMU garage made it into your packet. That really
It did,
confused me for a
yeah.
second. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the total width of your, let's call it proposal? So edge of the, exterior east-facing wall to edge of
It's
the
40 feet.
last post of the carport
40 feet.
relative to the width of the lot?
The lot is 50 feet, and we're taking 40 of the buildable width.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking me?
So, yeah, thank you.
sorry.
I feel like that's pretty uncommon to occupy like pretty much the full width of the lot with, it makes it not very secondary to occupy like that full span, really changes ratios that we see as regularly occurring.
So, Sarah, one of the things that was discussed last month, I'll mention it again, was just, this whole property is undergoing a pretty extensive renovation. It's still a rental property. So these are going to be pretty expensive rental units. So when we provide, a pretty expensive rental unit, we like to provide amenities. And so that extra covered parking space is really, it's just an amenity for an expensive rental to justify some higher rent. So anywhere we can get that justification to those renters, that's really why the covered space, that's really all it is.
But, the block is maybe 50-50 on duplex versus single family, so it is like a heavier.
It is, yeah.
A heavier multifamily, but.
Some of the other multifamilies on the other side of the alley have carport structures, and so it's kind of, I feel like it all kind of goes in line with that provided cover and parking for some of those units. I think the massing of the actual structure, aside from the carport, because the carport is very minimal, I don't remember the exact dimension on it, but it's a pretty low profile. It's just a flat little structure. So I think as far as the impact of that on the overall visual from the alley, I don't think it's going to feel super imposing to have just this little off to the side. That's all I have to say about it. Yeah.
Let me turn my mic. What's the square footage approximately of each unit? Or bedrooms? Are they 2-bedroom units? Are they 3-bedroom units?
They're pretty big,
They're pretty big, yeah.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Vahid Farzana. My wife Sarah's not here.
Would you state your address really fast? Even
Yes,
though
525. I actually live next door to 523. Just so there's some context, some people are new faces. We didn't apply for zoning, so the garage apartment will not be for rental. It's for personal use because I live next door. The duplex, I guess it's technically not duplex, it's first and second. They're about 1,500 square feet, 1,600 each, so top and bottom.
Okay.
And it is going through an extensive renovation to be updated. And then for the garages, it was partially because that street you had mentioned, there are some duplexes and there are some cars that park in the street. So this was like a way to get a lot of cars in a garage or covered area from the duplex that's already there. And since it's Oklahoma with weather, it's sometimes required. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. I'm trying to see if there's any other notes. I had one other note was, I think we talked about the size.
That's good for me.
Okay.
My thing is, and you said exactly what I'm looking at. If we were talking about 2 500 square foot units, more than likely I'd say, well, let's not worry too much. But when you're talking about the size of these, to try to move as much parking out of the street, which is a huge pet peeve of mine,
Sure.
especially people that have 2-car garages and a full driveway and still park all of their cars in the street. I mean, I think that that's something that's positive for the neighborhood to reduce street parking. And the size of it, I could even see at some point, possibly someone having 3 cars living in something that's 1,500 square feet, 3-bedroom.
Sure.
You know, I don't know. That, to me, that kind of provides a circumstance, y'all don't fall apart, that has me not hating the carport, or at least providing as much off-street parking based upon the type of structure that it is.
I think though, like using that logic, we could apply it to every single house in Mestre or Heritage. Like, you know, they're over 1,500 square feet, so maybe 3 people, or like maybe 3 drivers will live there. And we don't blanket approve 3 covered spots, unless I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
No, I'm saying because it's a multi-family.
Sure.
The multi-family part of it is what gets me there. 2 large multi-family, 2 large duplexes within this kind of creates a circumstance for me versus it just being a private residence for one house.
One large duplex, right?
Right, two,
Yeah,
Okay,
two
okay.
units.
Sorry, I was like, whoa.
Two large
2 large units within a
Okay, got it,
duplex,
got
yeah.
it.
But I would also argue that the driveway, existing driveway, is long enough to park 2 cars.
Yeah.
So you've got that, you've got 2 garage spots, that's 4 spots. And it's hard for me to justify taking 40 of the 50 feet of the width of the lot to add a carport spot.
And that's where I say, oftentimes, when you just have driveway parking in our neighborhoods, people park one in the driveway and park the other in the street. That way they're not having to move them around. I mean, it's just part of living in the neighborhood. I understand that, and it's part of, do you have good neighbors or do you have bad neighbors that will utilize their driveway for the full extent, or those that won't and will park their car in front of your house rather than parking it in front of their own house. So I'm a big favor, in big favor of trying to provide a parking area here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, at the same time, I do look at it and look at the width of the garage and say, okay, if you take the stairwell out, then that would reduce the width and then move the carport over rather than having that extra footprint that they have there along the width for that stairwell part of the garage. If you were just looking at a width of a double-car garage and a carport, would that be more favorable?
I was going to comment on exactly that because we're kind of debating 2 separate issues. In staff's opinion, you know, we've approved carports in minimally visible locations numerous times. If they were asking for this to be a pergola, we would administratively approve it, other than the fact that they have access to it from the driveway so they can park under it. If this were 1 story, I would say it's, you know, minimally impactful on the character of the property in the district, including with the carport. It's the fact that it's this footprint and goes up 2 stories when we don't really have justification in this location for a 2-story garage at this size, at this scale, that, you know, yes, trying to accommodate more vehicles because this is more than a single-family home is perhaps a unique circumstance, but I haven't heard a unique circumstance for going up a floor in this location.
I agree with you, now that you've talked about that. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking at just a 2-car garage and a carport, then, yeah, you're not going as much on the width So I don't know what the other board members feel about that in regard to the width of it.
One other thing I'll add is the height of the building in front is almost 10 feet higher. So the building in the front is quite massive. So this is a very small building in the back of it. I mean, it's a pretty, so you would imagine at least 10 feet lower than that. So that's just as big building. And I live right next door to the Jack Skellington right there.
So we are, and you're right, that's a tall building. The proposed garage is still like 1.5 feet higher than the tallest we generally allow, which is why we asked, is it 25 feet 3 inches? And I mean, it's why we asked the last applicant to shrink theirs from 26 to get in those margins of, it sounds like nothing, except for then it's like, oh, well, this one's 25'3", so maybe the next one can be a foot taller than it, and so on and so forth. And we do just really deal with it. I mean, y'all see how many people come before us every month, so.
Just to speak to that,
Yeah.
I mean, the standard in current new construction is 9 foot, 9 foot. So that's where that height comes from. We're not trying to,
No,
I'm not trying to make, I
totally.
mean, it has a pretty low pitch too. So I feel like that is not, I mean, we could make it 8 foot on each level. We went with 9 because that's kind of the standard, but.
I think we see quite a few 2-stories that have an 8-foot ceiling height and that have a 412 pitch roof. So that would be one path to getting a little bit of the height down.
Okay.
Especially because according to your drawings here, the difference between the 2 roof peaks is 5'10", not 10 feet.
I thought it was 6'10", okay.
So,
What'd you say,
so it's a little bit closer than
Yeah.
than he said. So yeah, if you were able to get that down a couple feet, that would help. But yeah, even outside of that, it's still the increase in lot coverage for me
And
too.
a justification for the 2-story.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't expect you to put back exactly what's currently there. I've seen it, but.
So, well then, can we do this? Could we agree to lower the height? I mean, we can do a 412 pitch. I don't think it's gonna look very good, but we can do a 412 pitch. The house is 612, that's why we matched it. We could do a 412 pitch, we can do 8-foot plate. And then as far as the carport goes, the carport itself, I'm not going to negotiate, I'm going to let my client do that, but as far as the actual parking space, the lot coverage is the concern here. But I think that even if we were to take the carport off, it's still the same lot coverage, and I don't think the logic of what we're saying of 2 parking spaces per unit off the street is, I don't think that that's really asking for too much. I think that the actual carport is the point of contention and not the lot coverage.
For me, it's not the lot coverage.
Right,
It's the carport to me feels really unintentional. It feels like something that if in 10 years I drove past this and I'm like, oh, look at that nice garage, that's great. Like, when did that get here? You know, and we love to see things that are built with intention and fitting within the fabric of our neighborhoods. I think, to be honest, this is kind of a strange thing to say, but like for me, part of it is that gate. It's making it look like a box steel cage.
Yeah.
So part of it is just how different it is. But, you know, kind of jumping back to that last one in Mesta too, like, we're just dealing with the massing problem. It's like we could shrink it in a lot. Like, I think there's several different scenarios to explore.
Okay.
I'd probably be all right if you took the gate off, because the gate's what makes it look.
I do agree, but something that we had talked about is, and we can certainly we can continue the gate and come back, because one thing I'd talked to him about was we can put wood slats in that gate. There's all kinds of things we can do to change that portion of it, and we can certainly come back for that. Can we get to a path of approval on the structure itself today and continue the gate for another discussion later?
I don't.
Are you talking about the pad for the structure?
The whole garage.
Including the carport?
What's the,
I think
what's
you're
the
asking if you
compromise?
could get to a place where you could build
Yes.
the actual garage parts
What's the
today.
compromise here? Do we remove the carport? Is that, but still retain the parking space?
I
That's
think
really my
staff
question.
is pretty concerned about there not being a justification for the 2-story garage. I think there's definitely a justification for a better parking situation, like absolutely no-brainer. You know, saying like we need to provide people with multiple parking spaces, like to Caitlin's point, there is a really long driveway, and just, you know, we don't deal in like financial value in terms of things like this, whether it's somebody renovating for themselves or renting or anything else. I think we wouldn't probably normally push this through, would be my guess. I think there's probably, we'd probably want to see it. I don't think it's like a thing of agreed upon conditions, because we're not just talking about like, sure, remove the carport. But I don't know, I'll let staff speak to that.
Just to clarify, in the past, anytime we've had a garage that has an abutting property, that has a two-story garage, then it's been allowed. So is that changing?
Does this have one?
This is how I've gotten garages passed for years, is if there's a two-story next door, it's,
But it's not every time. I mean, the guidelines are not written as every time.
So the guidelines say if we know what the historic garage was, then that's what you are allowed to build back. If we know it was one story, then the new garage is one story, period. When we don't know what the historic garage was, then you can build two-story if it's abutting.
okay.
So in this case, we have a structure that is clearly not a garage, but is one story. It is in the approximate location of the historic garage as shown on the Sanborn map, I think. So it's kind of, you're kind of in a weird gray area on whether we know what the historic garage was or not.
But the property next door
Similar to
does,
the one we just saw.
I think the property next door has a new two-story garage is the interesting thing. I think it was built probably before y'all lived there, but I think by the people you purchased the home from. I think they built a new two-story garage. And I wasn't on this commission and I didn't live there then, so I don't really know anything about the ins and outs, other than I think that garage is probably like circa 2012.
Yeah, it looks like the house immediately to the west and then the house to the west of that both have two-story garages.
yeah.
So the corner house and the one next to it.
Yeah, they're common on the block. And then you can't see this in this image, but there was a structure. So this is, I think we talked about this last time, is this lot was a bit unique because there was technically 4 dwelling units on this property. On my right, which I don't know, maybe on the right on your screen as well, you can't see it, it's not in the picture. There was a building there that was demolished already before we had purchased it. You can see the tile and everything, the foundation's still there, but so this at one point had 4 dwelling units on there. So we're trying to, the whole idea was like, let's clean it all up, make it all match, make everything look good to the proper specs that we are wanting in the neighborhood and make it work. That's the overall idea without adding any rental units, because we're not zoning for that. It's gonna be for personal use for the building.
There used to be 4 units in the backyard?
There used to be 2 units in the back, and itself is 2 in the front, so that's a total of 4.
So the units in the back, one story, what'd they look like? What were they?
There's a photo of one of them there.
The foot of one, it probably looked very similar to that one.
The
just
little
next.
gabled building?
If you go back, yeah,
So
that
that
little
was a
white
unit.
building. It was so last month we talked about it because we got it demo, we got approval to have it demoed.
Right.
The interior of it is a mess, but it's clearly was a rental unit. It has a bathroom with the toilet still there, everything. And there's a foundation of another one about the same size on the other
Okay,
side of.
I'm with you now.
Okay. Sorry.
I don't know, for me, it's an overall massing problem, width and height. I don't, not for me to decide how best to reduce that, but for me, that's, like covering the width of the lot with something that is effectively covered in ceiling height, and going up feels like a lot more than we would ever allow elsewhere.
Well, okay, the allow elsewhere, I was curious about that because there are a lot of 2 stories right there in that alley, including the 2 next to this house.
But the width, like what I said, was all of it together, like taking like that full span
Well, I
of
know,
the
but we
width
keep
of that.
talking about not prohibiting a 2-story.
Right, because we
I'm not
know what was there
necessarily-
originally.
yeah.
Is the staff's issue. We know that it was a one-story garage.
Right, and the discussion that we've had about that original 1-story garage was, one, that was 12 or something, and it was a single-family home then. It didn't make sense to have multiple
Right.
parking spaces because not everyone had a car back then. So now we're in a position where this is a multifamily property, and I think that the size of the property itself, the size of the building, the massing, all of it, it's huge, and it sits up on a hill. This is appropriate in height and everything. Like, it's appropriate to the building. I think the real question is the carport and the gate. To me, the garage itself maybe we reduce the height, but I really feel like the garage itself is appropriate to this property. And I think that's the sticking point here is we can say all day that it had a one-story garage originally, but that's no longer appropriate to the use of this property.
I hear that loud and clear. I think, we don't see a lot of, in Mesta Park, we don't see a lot of duplexes with two-story garages. We see that applied for as a SPUD a lot. We see, like, a future concern would be that it is, especially with the two pedestrian, I like where the stairs are for this reason, but future concern would of course be like, okay, does somebody down the road try to, we've seen it in other homes in the neighborhood, like does somebody try to just use this as a fourplex, and we've created a nightmare on this pretty small lot on this pretty nice street. So, I mean, again, like I hear you visually that garage is not out of sync with the height of that house or the scale of that house, but I think we probably have enough concerns that we need to, however y'all think you need to shrink it and whatever you think you need to do with it, but.
I would also say that whether or not it's appropriate for this property is kind of answered in the own use that you've laid out for it, which is that it's going to be used by an abutting property and therefore is not relevant to this property at all, unfortunately.
I agree.
So I'm sorry, there's a couple of different topics we talked about. I know Sarah talked about it being concern is later on someone turn this into a rental. Is that what you're saying as well? I just want to make sure I clearly understand.
I'm saying that if the argument is that this garage is appropriate and relevant and necessary for the use of the property on which it sits, then you are actually arguing against that statement by saying that the intended use of this will be for the owner of the property next door.
Yeah, I don't think
Just
anyone.
logically.
I don't think anyone's arguing that there needs, that there could be a two-car garage there. I think that it's that the second story is going to be used by you and not the residents. So that doesn't, justify that it's appropriate to the property if no one on the property is using it.
Just curious, so would it be, I get the justification, but it seems like we kind of talked about a few different things. One is if there was more duplexes there, there'd be more traffic. We don't want to see that neighborhood. In my head, I live next door, so traffic is very, very important to me. Cars being in the streets with kids running out, that's important to me. I know it is to the neighbors. What we had an opportunity with this was, hey, let's take some of that traffic off. My house is 2,200 square feet. It's like, oh, okay, we bought this. We could put a home office in there, and it'll match a lot of looks of everything else in the alleyway. And we're taking cars off the street. So that was just the logic behind that. And I know we talked about the carport not being a thing. Carport is not like critical. I thought it'd be a use of the space, but cosmetically, no one's going to see it at all from any angle, just because it's in the middle lot. But that's just so you guys have context of like the thought process. But what are you guys recommending? I'm just curious.
My thought is, and once again, I go through this, and I was focusing on the carport with the two-car garage, that I had no problem with that. However, staff says that the original garage is one story, and I guess we have documentation on that, so you stop, and the new garage has to be one story. And then by making the new garage one story, you're going to reduce that area of the garage that is going to have a stairwell, which will then make the full span not run the 40 feet. Is that what it was? What were you saying? How far? The total width? And I think that will, yeah, that would alleviate some of the concerns about how wide everything is with the carport and the two-car garage. I just don't think a two-story is appropriate. I think the carport with a two-car garage is appropriate. I don't think the two-story, and I don't think there's a circumstance here that even allows us to get to it.
Katie, are there, and we have revisited this a lot, but I know Mesta has a few specific rules. Are there any guidelines regarding administrative approvals on 1.5 stories where a 1-story existed?
Not for administrative approval. The guidelines for all districts allow for a 1.5-story garage where a 2-story garage is not permitted. And one thing I do want to say is I don't think we have photographic documentation of the historic garage. The Sanborn maps show a one-story garage. We've recently approved demolition of a one-story structure that there's no indication that that ever was a garage, so that presumably came after the garage. You know, we just had a discussion with the previous application where we had a existing one-story garage in the footprint of the historic one-story garage as shown on the Sanborn maps. And the commission seemed to be leaning in the direction of, we don't think that's the historic garage, so 2 stories is acceptable. This is kind of a similar situation. We have every indication that originally there was a one-story garage here. That garage is no longer extant. We don't have photographic documentation of it. We have an existing / recently demolished one-story structure in the approximate footprint. So in both of these cases, we have this kind of gray area of a modified or replaced structure, as well as historical documentation that there at one time was a one-story garage. So I just want to be consistent across these different applications because we're dealing with several of these that are similar in a lot of ways. I think you all have the discretion to say, we don't have enough to go on to say that there was a one-story garage, or to say we're confident that it was a one-story and that's where we stop. You also have the discretion to say there are unique circumstances here that justify going to 2 stories, even though we believe it was a one-story historically.
Katie, I didn't realize that I appreciate that clarification because I was reading it as we knew factually that was the original garage and there
Yeah, I
was
thought
one
what was
story.
demolished was the garage that had been turned into an apartment.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think we believed from the condition of that structure and how it was built that it never served as a garage.
Yeah,
Is
from
that-
the interior framing, there's no indication that there was an opening on the alley side of it. It was always a solid wall. The studs are in a pattern.
It was always a little
Yeah, and
a
if
swelling
you
wall
look
on
at
the
the
driveway
Sanborn
facing
map,
too.
the footprint for the original garage is super tiny, like very, very tiny.
Is it labeled an auto house?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, on the Sanborn.
Yeah, it was definitely smaller than that structure that you're
Do
seeing.
we believe there's, like, is there any indication something predated that, even if we don't know what it was? Is that what the consideration here is? Like, we don't know exactly what was built with this house?
No, that garage, here, I can show you.
I knew something
So
was
this
demolished
is,
in 2015.
this is 1922. That's the,
And the house was built in what year? I'm sorry.
Or it's bigger than that. Yeah.
I do not remember.
Do you know what year the house was built?
And then by
Can I pull that real quick? Hang on.
1949, the house is indicated as flats. So as early as
built in
1912.
1912.
As early as 1949, we've got apartments
1912.
1912.
with the same garage.
It's on the application.
And then in 1950, 50 and 55, it is the same garage, I assume, or the same footprint, one-story garage and apartments.
So I guess why would we say we don't factually know it was a one-story? What piece of information are we missing that would tell us factually it was one story?
Just that we don't have photographic documentation.
Okay, but it's labeled one story?
It's labeled one story. But
And I
this
was
is kind
so
of the same
close.
conversation with the last one,
Yeah.
that the building's still there, and we still said, well, it's not the historic, but we also know that was a one-story on the Sanborns, and is still a one-story today. So, sorry to like go down a crazy rabbit
No,
hole.
it's good to have the clarity for
Yeah.
all of these other cases. A concern that I have broadly is the massing, and secondary to that is the future use of kind of the animal we're creating and giving a third living space to a property that's a duplex. I think part of our job is to really protect the integrity of our neighborhoods, and while we can't predict future use, we've talked about that a lot before, about not creating really obvious ways for somebody to abuse the system. So I could probably come to a place of, I would love to see, if you could get an approval for a 1.5 story, with a parking pad that I felt like, hey, no, the next person who buys it from Vahid and Sarah are not gonna make this a triplex on this property. I
Yeah,
would
we
be
don't want that either.
so much more inclined than to just you know, if you're really trying to use it for a home office, I think Molly's right, like that we really shouldn't weigh, you know, your current use from another property onto the, you know, current use of this property. But
That's fair.
if a 1.5 story could be doable, I think we'd be in a lot better spot.
We can get there.
And I don't like the cage.
And
What?
yeah, I
The cage.
can even,
Okay, yeah, well, we'll put slats in it this time.
personally, I could get to a 1.5 story with a 2-car garage and a carport if the carport looked less like a cage.
Yeah.
You guys good with that?
Yeah.
Working towards that? One of the things about the carport, if you look at an aerial map of this, I think there's 2 houses on this alley where they're parked in the yard. They've used their yard as the parking garage. And that's one thing I would like, I mean, that's one reason I like the carport, because if you didn't have the carport, they'll park in the yard.
I would love to see a parking pad instead of a carport, but that's not going to be the hill I die on this month.
Yeah,
so.
right. So are you okay with us doing a continuous on that and coming back and looking at a 1.5?
Yeah, we'll have to come back for February, unfortunately.
Okay.
So,
Are you okay with that?
yeah, I'm fine with
Okay.
that.
So we have, okay, so we'll scrap the gate thing because that's part of that. So we just do a continuance?
Yeah, and actually, January's fine because I already have to be here next month anyway, so.
January?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion on HPCA. Yes.
And get a 1.5 story.
Oh, public comments. I am so sorry. Any members of the public who wish to speak to this matter? Okay,
See, I already
thank
knew-
you.
I already knew that.
You knew.
HPCA 25-00126, continuance until January of items number 2 and 9.
Okay, do we have a second?
Resubmit next Tuesday.
Second.
All right, if you guys would be so kind as to vote on this one.
Yeah,
All right, we will see you next month.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Don't forget your phone.
Nope.
So Katie, if I may ask a question while we're here, is there ever a case where we don't have a Sanborn map telling us what was there before?
No. Other than sometimes it doesn't show a garage at all, and we don't know if there might have been something, because they skip from 1922 to 1949, and we don't have any information for those years. So there may or may not have been a structure built and then subsequently, you know, burned down or demolished in that window. There may have been something that came and went between that 1955 Sanborn and the present day. So there's gaps in them. But for the majority of properties, we're going to have something in the Sanborn map that tells us if they had a garage and if it was 1 story or 2 or
Okay.
1.5.
And then, so that would satisfy, because it says photographic or documentation, that would satisfy, the Sanborn map satisfies the documentation
So
required.
I think that's kind of a point of discretion for the commission. If you
Okay.
feel Sanborn maps, the vast majority of the time are accurate when we look at an existing property and what they show. Sometimes they're not, or sometimes things have changed and the labels have not been updated. So I think that's kind of up for you all if you feel like just a Sanborn map, nothing else is enough to go on for that evidence of a 1-story garage or a 2-story garage, or if you all feel like we're not going to use that and that all alone as evidence, we need something else.
What was the last year of Sanborn?
55.
55.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some of it was built after that.
And I think we had one of those in Putnam Heights kind of recently. So it does happen every once in a while. But okay, moving on to HPCA 25-00135, also in Mesta Park. Actually, really sorry, everyone's walking up. Can we take a 5-minute?
Or even a 2-minute break. Sure thing.
Sorry, we're going to recess for just a minute.
So sorry.
No, I'm in the same boat.
I do have a hard stop at 5, but.
Okay, we should.
So close.
So close. I got excited and then, oh, okay. I don't have to sign these. Maybe speak.
left. Do we need to call roll again?
We do. Needs to call roll, the share quorum.
Okay.
Yeah, don't give us much of an explanation.
Can we do that before Katie gets back, or do we need to wait on Katie?
You probably want to wait on Katie.
Okay.
Because she may have stuff.
All right, can we go ahead and call roll just to keep us moving along?
So you can leave.
Jordan,
Present.
Gaines,
Present.
McBride.
Oh, sorry,
She's
present.
Whitley, yeah. Wood.
Present.
We have quorum.
Okay, and now we have Katie.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so we've got HPCA 25-00135 in Mesta Park.
This is at 2115 North Dewey, Mesta Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application by Sarah Wernicke, Old Home Rescue, for Carmelita Reeder Shin for certificate of appropriateness to 1, replace pedestrian door at garage, elective, and 2, install storm windows, elective. We've seen storm windows a couple of times here lately with this applicant.
Hopefully this is the last time.
Yes,
you'll-
this meeting. And what we have been dealing with is verifying and documenting the glass in the storm windows, the visible light transmittance, the reflectivity, because we've realized that it has become common for storm windows to be produced with low E, which affects all of those factors when we're looking at storm windows. So on this one, we did have a recommendation of continuance. I think we have received some additional information from the applicant and could perhaps recommend approval with condition that we verify with the applicant that we have all the necessary documentation of the glass and the transparency and reflectivity of the glass being used in the storm windows. And I'll let Angela's been working with Sarah on this, so I'll let you chime in if there's anything else to add to that.
Okay.
And then we just had a condition. And that's it. And then the garage door was just recommended for approval.
Okay, and just really briefly before you start, if anybody missed it, we're going to lose quorum in about 28 minutes.
Okay.
So go ahead and
Like I said,
introduce
this should
yourself
take
and-
like a minute. Sarah Wernicke, Old Home Rescue, 401 South Blackwelder. Yes, when Morgan and I came last month and gave a show and tell on VLT and glass and light transmittance, but we had submitted this application the day before we had that conversation, and I forgot to follow up with the specific documentation on the glass that is going into these storm windows to prove that they are indeed above, that the glass is above that 0.74 VLT requirement in the guidelines. So when I got the staff report, notice I didn't do that, sent it to Angela, so you guys had it for today. But it's the same window that was approved last month after our show and tell.
Okay. And Katie, staff feels comfortable with this, and you guys have everything you need, no?
Yeah, if you'll,
Notes.
because it was a late,
so
just so that we have it on the record, that condition that the documentation be submitted to staff, and then if we do look at that and realize we're missing anything, we can still work with them
Okay,
toward that.
so with an agreed upon condition that the documentation is submitted.
Yeah.
Any members of the public wish to speak? I was going to remember. Commissioners, any further questions?
I make a motion to approve HPCA-25-135. Items. What?
Sorry, I thought you were done. I was seconding.
Oh, sorry. Items
He's ready.
1 and 2 with the conditions that the appropriate information is submitted to staff.
Okay,
Second.
all right. If you all would please vote. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, next up, another Mesta Park, busy month of Mesta Park, HPCA 25-00136.
This is at 927 Northwest 19th Street. Consideration and possible action on application by Jonathan King, PMH Construction, for Joel Ritter for certificate of appropriateness to 1 demolish garage elective, 2 construct garage elective, 3 revise paving elective, and 4 install pool, hot tub, and decking elective. Staff has recommended approval of the demolition of the garage and continuance on the other items. There are concerns noted in the staff report regarding materials submitted for the garage, as well as some points of discussion for the commission about the size and location of the proposed garage. It is being relocated essentially to accommodate installation of the pool that is proposed.
Okay, applicants present, if you would state your name and address, please.
I'm Jonathan King, and it's 927 Northwest 19th Street.
Okay. Commissioners, any immediate questions right off the bat?
Do you want approval of demolition of the garage without approval of the subsequent construction and the other items?
Yeah, I think approval of the garage to demo would be probably a good goal for today if we can. And as far as the materials that I've been over this with Angela, and everything recommended, we're completely fine with doing and making corrections on all of that.
I think the crux of this one comes down to whether we are in the business of moving garages to accommodate pools. Some of these, I mentioned one earlier, that some of these garages are situated in places, or driveways are, that truly make the bulk of the lot unusable and not friendly to anything but driving through it. This one doesn't really meet that criteria. It's like a convenience move for the pool. So for me, that's kind of the only, that's my consideration, is whether we are in the business of moving a historic location to accommodate a pool.
Wait, has this already been done?
Do it now.
This work's already been done?
No.
Are you looking at that garage driveway and stuff?
Yeah.
I think that the previous owner had done enough work to make it kind of decent, but maybe not great, and it had been, like I said earlier, kind of Frankensteined, like a lot of materials had been removed and patched and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and they did some grading that caused some flooding. It floods into the garage in the center of it when it rains.
Okay.
So we're going to try to correct all that if we can.
I don't know, for me, there's a lot of garages right up against the alley.
Yeah, there's a lot of them in that alley. There's a lot of them that are right up on there.
I think it's probably more to the point that those existed there originally. So,
No, I understand that. I would be okay with relocating it to make their backyard more usable to them.
what would be the unique circumstance?
So I guess my question is for staff, do the guidelines specifically say you're not to relocate if you're rebuilding?
It says you should approximate the location of the historic garage. We often see people shift a garage forward or backward a little bit for maneuverability, shift it off the property line because no one wants their garage on the property line, that sort of thing. This is maybe a more dramatic relocation of the garage than what that is. I will note that this block appears to have garages in a variety of locations. You know, we have some blocks where they're all perfectly in a row.
Yeah.
And so you have that kind of uniformity down the block, and this one is more varied. They are moving it to a location that is still in line with other garages, but you all may feel like it's too dramatic of a shift from what the historic location was. But it is mid-block, it's not on a corner, so.
I would argue that that's my unique circumstance, is that on that block and even directly next door, there are structures right up against the alley. And it is mid-block, it's not being seen from the street, it's minimally visible unless you're in the alley, but that's not, you know.
Sounds like a motion.
Can I ask one quick question? Do you have enough maneuverability to get in and out of that garage and into the alley?
Say that again.
Do you have enough maneuver? That's a really narrow alley and it's a poorly maintained one. Do you have enough maneuverability to get in and out of that garage effectively?
Yeah, we did check that. They're able to back out, and it's a little tight, but it's not anything crazy. We moved in with our trucks and back in and out. We put cones in the place of where the garage would be to check that. It is tight, and there is the equipment there, but they already navigate that anyway, and it wasn't even a thought until it was brought up. We thought, okay, well, let's check this and see.
So staff is recommending continuances on all of this, so unless,
So I think the concern with the garage is that was the location, which it sounds like we may have a motion to identify a unique circumstance related to the location, and then was materials, lighting, windows, garage doors, siding, et cetera, that as currently proposed don't all meet the guidelines or are not adequately addressed.
Yeah, the current document doesn't reflect that, but I need to update that because we've already spoken about
So it would be whether you all felt comfortable with all of that information missing, approving that with the condition that it be submitted to staff, or if you want to see it come back.
is it so much that staff prefers it to come back, or is it stuff that, 9 times out of 10 box can be checked?
Angela's shaking her head no. I think we're good. Yeah.
Any members of the public wish to speak to this one? All right. There being none, anybody have a motion?
Do we need to discuss the issue on the pool, or are we okay with continuing that?
Was that just contingent
I think that
on
was
the
the-
garage?
It's just that.
Oh, it's
yeah.
contingent on the garage.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Well, I will go ahead and make a motion on HPCA 25-00136. I will approve item 1, demolish garage, with the specific findings noted in the staff report, because we have to break this out.
Okay, do we have a second? Thank you.
And then I will move to approve item 2 and 3 and 4 with the specific findings noted in the staff report.
And with the condition
Yeah,
that
hang
all
on.
materials be submitted to staff.
With the condition that all materials will be submitted to staff.
I'll second that.
And the unique circumstance
right.
that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. With the unique circumstance that, I got it. Oh, okay.
There we go. As stated previously.
As stated previously.
Second.
Okay.
Oh, Molly had already done it, then leave
Okay.
Molly.
All
I didn't
right.
hear you, Molly.
It was
That's something new. Is that a first that someone said they didn't hear you?
Okay, so, just get with staff on all of that and get your documentation in, and we likely won't see you again, so.
Thank you.
All right, last up on the consent, or on the items for individual consideration is HPCA 25-00137 in Edgemere Park.
This is at 245 West Eubanks, consideration of possible action on application by Old Home Rescue for Chad Huntington for installation of storm windows. So I would say this is essentially a duplicate of item 8, HPCA, oh no, actually I take that back. This is one where we were questioning whether the existing storm windows were actually historic storm windows, which yes, that's a real thing, based on the information that we had available from the applicant. So we were actually looking for either more information on that from them or a continuance to verify whether those were historic
And we're still waiting on
features.
that?
Yes.
And applicant is not present, I assume?
No, I think they left.
Oh, they were here?
It's Sarah. It's,
Oh, did she forget?
I don't know.
Yeah, make sure she's not just speaking with her client, if you don't mind.
Well, that does technically say submitted by Morgan, so. Didn't realize.
So the issue is that we don't know if they're original, and we would not recommend replacement if they were original.
Right, we would typically want to see them either repaired or more closely replicated, not just replaced with a modern storm window.
Okay, well, then I would be in favor of continuing it until we have more information.
And we can only go to the next docket since they're not present, or can we go to February?
I think it's a pretty small, it's a piece of information that either they're going to have it or they don't. So I think we
Okay.
can do January. Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
No members of the public wishing to speak on this one? Okay, there being none, motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue HPCA 25-00137, all items to the January meeting.
A second, anybody?
Second.
All right, if y'all would vote in Prime Gov, please. All right, we'll take another look at that one next month. All right, other business, SPUD 1791 in Jefferson Park.
This is at 424 Northwest 27th Street and is a request for a recommendation to Planning Commission regarding a request to rezone this property to a simplified plan unit development in accordance with R2, two-family residential, and the historic landmark overlay, except with the restrictions called out. This is essentially a request to be able to build a duplex and an accessory dwelling. This property is currently zoned NC Tract 1, which allows duplexes by right, so they could build a duplex. This is a property that was previously demolished on the site that was a single-family home with a accessory dwelling in the rear, a two-story accessory dwelling that may have been a garage originally, but at the point it was demolished was no longer functioning as a garage. So they have retained most of the requirements of that R2 base zone, which is comparable to the NC Tract 1. They are modifying the minimum lot size and lot width. And this is from the most recent discussions with subdivision and zoning staff, and that's in order to accommodate 3 dwellings on the property because there are requirements for lot size and width per dwelling. They are modifying the building setback lines to be consistent with both what this structure appears to have been and with what they propose to put back in its place. I think outstanding piece that was part of the staff recommendation is that they are proposing 2 parking spaces per dwelling, which is actually more than what code requires. Code would allow 1.5 spaces per dwelling if it's a 1-bedroom or a studio. And staff would just note that before this goes to Planning Commission and City Council, the applicant should make sure they can accommodate that in a form that would be able to get a certificate of appropriateness. Because once that's it, and you can't vary from it. They'll have to provide that many parking spaces, which may be challenging on this site. I did note that the site plan currently shows a circle drive in the front yard, which we would generally not approve. So just ensuring that all of that parking can fit on the site in an appropriate way. But other than that, we typically leave density, number of parking spaces, number of dwelling units, number of bedrooms per units to Planning Commission. We look at the form, we look at the setbacks, the lot coverage, the height, that sort of thing, and all of that is consistent with what the current zoning would require. So staff has recommended approval just with that additional comment to Planning Commission regarding the parking, if that's something that needs to be further revised.
Okay, thank you. Applicants present, would you state your name and address for the record?
Hello, everyone. Holly Hunt, 5913 Northwest 82nd Circle. And I'm so glad you spoke to that, Katie, because that's the only one of the specific findings, or rather conditions of approval that I was going to ask about. And I appreciate that because that would actually probably reduce. And you're right, it is so hard to change a SPUD once it is black and white. So I appreciate that. I will get with that in the morning and likely reduce that to meet that standard, as you say, 1.5 per dwelling unit. I mean, it's very clear here in the SPUD. We've modified that language to include the garage parking as parking for the site, which shockingly doesn't, just the way that the zoning ordinance is written. So we believe, yes, we can fulfill all of the parking requirements. The Circle Drive, we'll definitely circle back to, if you will. But we're pleased with this approval, and we'll accept all the conditions, and we can all go home.
Well, we haven't approved it. The staff recommended for approval.
Yeah, that's true.
So you think
meant
that
recommendation.
you can, you think you can get the 6 spots in without the Circle Drive and still
I
meet
do.
lot coverage requirements in HP?
Yeah, as you can see to the west of the two-story parking, or two-story garage, I've got 1 parking spot there. Obviously, the driveway counts as well. And then this concrete driveway space that we have in front of there, if you park really tight to the little
I'm so
sidewalks
sorry,
there,
which packet are you in? I think ours is a little.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just on the site plan.
Yeah, I can't figure out which attachment that's in.
Oh, it's in
Page
the-
8.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just feel like you
Preliminary
can
plans.
still put in
Gotcha,
6
thank
spots,
you.
even with a 1.5 spot, you know,
Yeah,
in your spud. Like, I always feel like it's better to underpromise, overdeliver,
agree.
rather than like setting yourself to a hard standard that's more than what's required. And when we, you know, possibly nix this Circle Drive, then all of a sudden you're in a, you know, bit of a hardship, or you have to, you know, do so much more lot coverage to get those in. Like, we don't want you to, you know, back yourself into a corner here. So
Certainly.
I
couldn't agree
personally would
more.
recommend under promising here. And then if you can provide 6, like, great, do it, but don't trap yourself into doing it.
Thank you. I will take that into consideration and action.
But otherwise, you're good with revising the master design statement to address lot size and width?
Yes, and in fact, I wrote in here in the conditions, it's already been done, but just not prior to this meeting. I missed Thad's email until after Thanksgiving, so.
Yeah, I mean, my concerns are just a lot of concrete, which is, we've just discussed basically. And you know, just, this isn't your problem because this is not the same person, but this commission vehemently opposed demoing this single-story house, and the applicant went over our heads and appealed, and it was granted, and you know, it was demoed. But like, when we reviewed this, we viewed it was only appropriate for that house to stay where it was as a single family. And while the zoning currently allows for it to be a duplex, and you know, we're staring at this like there was a 2-story garage, like I get all of the logic behind that. For me, like, it's nothing personal. For me, it's a no, because we sat here and we said, no, what was there was appropriate. It could be a unit up front, and it could be a 2-story garage with another unit, and that's what it's zoned for, and we wanted what was there to remain.
Actually, the duplex in the rear doesn't meet the zoning requirements of R2. They must be connected. So
You can't have
it
2
would have had to been-
dwellings in an R2, one in the secondary and one in the,
Well, that's not what it's currently zoned for.
but in R2, you cannot,
No,
like that
it's zoned
cannot be
R2.
the.
They have to
sorry.
they have to be attached.
Okay, sorry, I misread that
You can
then.
have 2 dwellings, but they have to be connected to each
Okay,
other.
so
Yeah.
if we were to, how would that be treated with the fact that there was an ADU there? How would that, like, I guess I'm confused about the relevance of it already having had one originally.
Well, if it had stayed, if someone had renovated the house, that dwelling would just be existing non-conforming.
Okay, so it could
You
have
would
been a
not have
dwelling.
You would not have been
Okay.
able to add another dwelling.
That's what I was confused
Because you
about,
would
that the
have
fact
been
that it effectively had 2 dwellings
Yeah.
But
that
I
were
would-
not connected.
I would mention in my conversations with Katie, as well as Thad Johnson in subdivision and zoning, you know, it was typical in the zoning ordinance to be written that a garage apartment could and would exist in these areas, and that was revoked at some point. Could you speak to that, Katie?
Yeah, so from like 1940 something until 2007, the ordinance allowed for 2 dwellings attached or detached. And then in 2007, we did a big repeal and
Okay.
replace, and that sentence went away.
Okay.
But that still would have been either a duplex or a house and a garage apartment that
With
would have
the
been allowed in
non-conforming
these
ADU.
areas.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I was not familiar with that kind of fine print.
And I would mention that we are reducing the size of that accessory structure, the garage, the 2-story structure, whatever you want to call it. We're going to use it as a garage and a dwelling unit, and that's why we're writing the spud to that effect.
I think it's probably a moot point. I just, for me, like, the fact that we sat here and said, no, like this FUD isn't appropriate, what was there was appropriate. We told you it was appropriate. I just want to clarify that that's like, especially for public record, that like it,
I would mention at,
you know,
at the end of the block in both directions, we have apartments. So this is an area where we do see a lot of multifamily, so I don't feel like this is altogether unfitting, and as well as.
no, if it were an empty lot all along, I think
Right.
but because it was demoed so recently and because most of the same people who are sitting here right now said, no, that should stay, that's appropriate, that's worth saving, that's why I'm struggling. And it's not that I don't think this is going to move forward, but I think it's important to bring up that a very short time ago, we said, no, that house and that, you know, that's what's supposed to be there, not, you know, 3 units. So
I wish I could speak more to that.
yeah, no, it's not your problem, but you know, if it had been an empty lot for 60 years, I'd feel differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I find it hard to, I don't know, I don't think for me, there's not a justification that's saying, well, we didn't want it demolished, so now we can't put anything back there except for a single family. Because that's, I mean, A, it's already zoned for a higher use than that, and B, I mean, if that's the case, it may just sit and sit and sit and not get developed. I mean, things happen over our heads all the time, like with, you know, the church on Chartel that we said no on the demo to build apartments, but then it got demolished by way of the city as a dilapidated structure, and now no one has developed it. And it's just sitting there as an empty lot. So like, whether or not we said no to something, that's not our client, or not the client, it's not, you know, the applicant's issue. It's, we have to look at, right now it's an empty lot, is this appropriate? It's zoned for it, there's multifamily in the neighborhood, so yes. And that's kind of how I look at it, personally.
Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners or members of the public wishing to speak? Anything further that needs discussing?
All your friends.
Anybody else?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval on SPUD 01730 with the specific findings and conditions noted in the staff report.
Yes.
Anybody want to second that?
I will.
All right, we have a second. Would you all please vote in PrimGov?
Thank you, commissioners. Have a good evening.
Oh wait, that's, sorry. How did Cassie vote?
You did it.
No, yeah, it's Molly.
Oh, sorry. I was misreading that. Okay. Yes, it does. Okay, motion carries. I was like, don't leave so fast. Okay, all right. So that motion carries. Moving on to other business.
Communications and reports, we have lots of administrative approvals. As always, reach out to staff anytime you have questions about any of those. We had one item withdrawn that just had not moved forward, and an administrative closing. Nothing to report from City Council, nothing to report from Board of Adjustment or Planning Commission. Municipal Council?
Oh, I'm sorry, Rita, anything from Municipal
Nope.
Council's office? Okay.
No.
No, okay. Next meeting date will be, what do we say, January 3rd and February 5th?
January 7th.
January 7th. See you guys January 7th. Items from commissioners? Nope. Any citizens who wish to be heard? Nope. All right.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
By the hair of our chin.